everybody. Tonight we're debating flat Earth versus globe Earth, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate. If this is your first time here, want to let you know at our channel, Modern Day Debate, we are committed to providing an equal playing field for everybody to make their case, regardless of what walk of life they are from, whether they be flat earthers, globe earthers, Christians, atheists, you name it. We hope you feel welcome here as we try to provide that equal playing field for everybody. Also, want to let you know we are very excited, as if you have not heard, Modern Day Debate has invaded the podcast world. So this is an addition to the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel will continue. However, we now have our podcast on virtually every major podcast app. And if you can't find us on your favorite podcast app, just let us know. We'll get on there for you. With that, very excited to talk about tonight's debate. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have Mark Drysdale, who's been here before, many debates, Kent Hovind as well as others, and first-timer Rose is here with us tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. I want to let you know, folks, what we're basically going to do is we're going to have a fairly flexible format with 5 to 10 minute opening statements, followed by 50 to 60 minutes of open dialogue, and then 30 minutes of Q&A. So we are going to also have, during that Q&A, questions from you, the audience, in the live chat. Feel free to fire your questions in, tagging me with @ModernDayDebate. Makes it easier for me to get every question in that list. Super Chat is also an option, which will push your question to the top of the list, and it gives you the opportunity to make a comment if you'd like to challenge one of the speakers, to which they, of course, would get a chance to respond to. And we, of course, ask that you would be your regular friendly selves toward our guests, as we really do appreciate them being here. The debaters are the lifeblood of the channel, so we really do appreciate them. And so we're going to introduce Rose first. Rose, we're thrilled to have you. And also, I want to let everybody know that both of our guests are linked in the description. So if you want to hear more, you can hear more. And so, Rose, what could people expect to find at your links? And thanks for being here with us.
Hi there, James. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and flex my debating skills. On the links, you will see my YouTube channel, Rose777, and that is the channel that I just created recently after being part of Crow 777 Radio for a few years. I'm not usually on the mic on Crow 777 Radio. In fact, I never am. I'm behind the scenes. And so I hope that everyone will check out crow777radio.com, which is my whole purpose in trying to get good information out to people. But then people wanted to start hearing my point of view, and so I started my own channel, and that's where you'll find me at Rose777.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Rose. And Mark, glad to have you back. If you'd like to share what people can find at your link, glad to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot, James. Lots of kitty cats, tigers, lions, and over the summer we had 2 litters of lions. So we're about to start up some more videos and show people what it's like to be in with the lions while they're feeding their babies, and what I go through to get a first-time mother, teaching her how to nurse and all that kind of stuff. So all the big kitty cats, so lions, tigers, and yeah, no
Absolutely.
Bears, but
really,
lions and tigers.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've been to Mark's channel, folks, and I've been to Rose's channel. I'd say both of their channels really fun, and they're just both really authentic, very genuine, congenial people, which is why I think this is going to be, it's possible, folks. This is going to be like a flat Earth debate that's like very congenial, and you're going to love it. So with that, we will get started. And so, Mark, the floor is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thanks, James. So basically what I would like to start out with is, as usual, I don't have any videos or clippings that I throw up on my screen or anything like that. I just kind of like going off the cuff and, hearing what my opponent has to say, and then just let them know why I believe that it's not possible. So, a couple questions that I would ask Rose right off the start is, where do we get eclipses from? If the Earth is not a globe, where do the eclipses come from? Where we can clearly see the moon, sun, and Earth all be, eclipsing each other. So we see that, every few years. I've actually seen full eclipses where I live here in Southern Ontario. And then I would also ask Rose, where does the sun go? That if we are having a flat Earth here, we should be able to look off, to our left, our right, our east, our west. I don't know if she believes that there's east and west on a flat Earth. I'm not sure how that would work, but if you look off to where she thinks the sun goes at night, how can we possibly not see that? You've got seasonal changes. There's just so many things that I can't fathom how we could be dealing with something that's flat. We've got gravity. So, if she believes that gravity is real and it's the attraction of two masses to each other, why would we not have less gravity out near the edge? And where is the edge? And if she's a believer that there is no gravity, well, then you've continually got, 9.8 meters per second of acceleration that we would have needed since the beginning of time. So we would be really traveling along pretty quick by now. If you start multiplying that all out, every day we'd be increasing our speed by, several hundreds of thousands of miles per hour. That's I don't want to bury her in questions, but these are some things that she's going to have to not dismiss or push aside. They really need to be answered. When you see a ship coming across the ocean, it does not all of a sudden appear. It starts to appear from the top down, and if it's going away, it disappears the opposite. So, a lot of questions that work with the globe, and I'd really be excited to see if she has anything new to offer. Obviously, this has been debated heavily now for the last 5 years or so. I haven't heard a whole lot new from the flat earthers, but love to give Rose a try and hear what she has to say.
You got it. We'll kick it over to you, Rose. Thanks so much. The floor is all yours.
All right. Awesome intro, dude. Thank you so much. I wish that I had written down all of those things, but I know you're not going to forget your questions. And as we go through this, we can address them one by one. And I know that there are going to be so many questions because this is such a crazy deception that has been put upon the masses. And I wish that I could give you an answer for exactly what the Earth model is. And there are many suggestions of what it could possibly be. But what I like to focus on is the fact that there's absolutely no signs of curvature. There's no gravity. There's no proof of the distance to the sun. We can't show that there anywhere in this heliocentric model that there's gas pressure without a container. There's no scientific evidence of the Earth's radius. There's no scientific evidence of showing how far the sun is to us. There are so many things that can't be proven, just like axial rotation. What I want to focus today on is personal observation, experiments that people have done that I know personally, and just we're going to try and get to the bottom of this. I mean, gravity is a theory, and yes, there is a downward force motion, but gravity by heliocentric standards is not a force, it's an effect. And so I want to get down to the real specifics of this. And so if you want, we can start with the fact that there is no curvature whatsoever to be detected at all. The photos that NASA is giving us, it's all CGI and lies. That is my position. I want to talk about satellites. I want to talk about the jet stream. I want to talk about emergency flight paths. I want to talk about my personal observations as well as people that I know who have done their own. And so let's get right through it and go to it one by one. Do you want to start with curvature?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So you were talking about how things disappear on the horizon from bottom up first, and that has to do a lot with our perspective and the ways that our eyes work. But let's talk about specific measurements that can be taken. So as I was telling you before we started, I live right on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain. Okay. And so this is a massive lake with a huge bridge over it. And it's 24 miles long. And on the other side of it, not even right on the beach of the lake, but further down is New Orleans. And there is a really famous building called the Superdome with a really bright white roof. So what I set out to do was see if I can, with a P1000, zoom in on that building. Now, one thing I want to just add into it really quick is, unlike many other places where these experiments have been done, is that New Orleans is actually below sea level, and I'm not even going to account for that. My thing is I want to be really compassionate to the idea of the spinning ball, and so sometimes I will be more generous with my measurements. James, can I show my screen?
You bet. Ready for you.
All right, let me just, oopsies, I was doing the wrong mouse. All right, so I'm going to open up my C2 far. Share screen. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I can just pick which thing. Oh, whiteboard, finder, unknown. How do I do my entire screen?
There should, I think it's usually the top left window that will say like full screen or something like full screen, I think.
Oh, it wants me to allow it on Mac. Oh no, it's gonna make me quit. Shoot, it wants me to quit. So is there any way to send this in a chat?
We can definitely, let me see if there's a way from Spotlight. There usually, let me just try it just to see what it shows on my end. So when I click share screen, there's like the top left option when you see all those windows that you can share. That's the one you'll want.
It's telling me that I need to give it permission and then like quit the program and rejoin. So I don't want to have to do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I missed you?
Yes. We can do that.
If that's gonna take too long, that's okay. I can explain this and then I can send this information to you afterwards.
You got it.
I mean, Mark, I can send you all of the stuff so you can see it firsthand.
Sure.
I have video footage. I have video footage of me zooming in on the roof of the Superdome from Sunset Point. And I have another picture here, and everyone can go to their Google Maps and look at the distance from Sunset Point to the Superdome. And they say it's 35.5, or sometimes depending on the driving route, 34 miles. So we've got a 34-mile distance. And let me just bring it up so I can read my screenshots that I took. So even if, and this is by the heliocentric model, if you go to the Earth curvature calculator, and I'll send you the link to that. I have this all in screenshots, so it's a shame that you won't be able to see it right now. But according to your model and the math that they're doing, it's 8 inches per mile squared. That is how far and how the curve is measured. So let's say that I'm going to be extremely generous and say that we're 12 feet above the water and we're only going 28 miles away. So the Superdome is 273 feet tall. Okay, but under those calculations, it should be hidden by 376 feet. So that's like 100 feet that it's coming up. And I do know what the people who believe in the spinning ball say, which it has to do with refraction and light being bent and going in different directions. And I will address that. But I just want to keep going with more calculations that I covered here.
Can I just talk to you about that for 1 minute?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so where you are at, where you're zooming in with your camera, how high above sea level are you?
Above the water.
Right.
Above the water. So we're on a pier. So I did these calculations if the camera was above for 20 feet or 5 feet or 6 feet.
No, that's not what I'm asking. What is your height? What is your height above sea level, just north of Lake Pontchartrain, where you live? See, what I'm getting at is the Earth, yes, it's a ball, but it's not a continuous ball. So one experiment is not going to cut it. That's the problem. That's like saying that, the difference between the plains of Africa all the way up to the top of Mount Everest. Obviously, the Earth is not just a continuously flat ball. You could have areas that the curvature calculator just does not work. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but that's why
Okay.
it's really great to do these experiments at sea level. And so that's why a lot of these experiments are done over the water on the beach. So I'll give you another example. I just had a friend the other day named Lincoln in Australia, and let me just get the names of these locations. He was able to zoom in on something 38 miles away. Let's see. I see too far, Australia. So he was able to zoom in on the wool base silos. So if on your screen you want to look up the wool base silos, you can see what it looks like, and I'll send you these pictures afterwards. And so this isn't just a lake, this is on the ocean, the Gulf of Vincent. So we're not talking about any elevation whatsoever. He's on the beach with his camera. And that is, let's see, how far away was that? So that is 36.84 nautical miles. So if I go to the Earth curvature calculator right now, I can detect, let's say if I put that he was a 20 feet tall giant standing on the beach, it still will show that those silos are supposed to be below the curve. So
How far away are they, are you saying?
36.84 miles. So let me bring up on my
But
screen.
do you realize how little 38.6 miles is? How very little
Exactly.
it is.
That
There,
goes
there,
to show.
in between those 2 points, you could have a dip in the curvature of the Earth. Do you understand what I'm saying? You could have a hollow between the two, and you would see the silo. So what you're saying is just simply too small of a distance. But let me put this to you, and I'll let you answer. So I'm going to go now to, you've used my Earth calculator for curvature against me, and I'm good with that. I would have to look into the two locations and what the topography is between those two locations. But according to your Earth calculator, which is a flat Earth with no curve to it at all, you should be able to zoom in on your friend in Sydney, Australia. Why can't you? You're
Because
down in Lake. You're simply 1,000 miles south of me right now. Why can I not get a telescope and zoom in on you? Why can I only see out a certain distance? Why can I not go on top of the CN Tower and take a look at that exact dome that you're speaking of in Louisiana? Why can I not see it?
because of the atmosphere, because you're looking at the light, the way it's traveling through different atmospheric conditions. And so there's only so much,
Okay, so
like for a hallway, if you're looking
right.
along a hallway, even if it's a flat hallway, it's still going to converge into a point.
Well, it doesn't converge into a point. It depends how long it is. Obviously, lines will become closer together as they get further away, because just simply that's how you judge the speed of a car coming at you. A lot of people don't realize how good we do stuff subconsciously, but the reason a car has two headlights on the front is so that we can judge distance, and that's why so many motorcycles get um, people get hurt on motorcycles, is because you've only got that single headlight, and there's no way to judge how fast those two headlights are starting to get wider as it comes towards you. And that's how you judge speed subconsciously. So what you're saying, I understand what you're saying, that as things get further away, of course, two lights that are only 10 feet apart from each other from 50 feet away are going to look substantially further apart than if they're a mile away. I get that. But now you're saying that the Earth's atmosphere is responsible for making it so that I can't simply see from here to Chicago, which is in a straight line, a little over 160 miles, maybe. There's no height that I can go to and look over and see Chicago. I can't go up to the top of the CN Tower, but you're using Earth's atmosphere, um, saying that that's the reason that we can't see that distance. But you're saying that light refraction cannot be used for the reason that we do see things slightly higher than what we should see them. But a really good example is a boat. You can't really get a better example of not having to worry about the topography of the Earth in between 2 points where it could be a hollow, is to look across an ocean. And over and over and over, unless we do have atmospheric conditions that allow the rays of light to scatter, we do see boats disappear. So, I just wanted to say that to you because you are kind of using Earth's atmosphere as saying, well, that's the reason you guys say that we can see things further than we should. But now you're kind of using it the other way and saying that's why we can't see things as far as we should if it was flat. Go ahead, Rose.
Yeah, and you made an excellent point that it would be the topography because it's not at the same elevation everywhere, and that would be what could obstruct our view if we were at the beach and I wanted to see you on the other side of the world. I think it's funny because when I was talking to someone about how standard refraction is supposed to work, which assumes the Earth's radius when we have never even measured to the molten core and there's no proof of the molten core, that we can't use that made up standard refraction that they try to use to explain how you could see light around a curve. But really quickly, I just want to let you know, because I know that 36, oops, let me check. I keep putting 38, but it's actually 36. I'm going to be really generous to the curve. Oops, wrong keyboard. I'm going to be really generous and I'm going to put 35. So again, I just want to get this out there because it's just so crazy to me that even if it's just 35 miles away, the target hidden height would be 581 feet below the horizon. So that's what I was just describing with Lincoln zooming in on the Wool Bay silos. That's just, so I know that the Earth is, so when this happened, when I zoomed in on the Superdome and Lake Pontchartrain, and I'll send you the videos because that was really terrible atmospheric conditions. In fact, we didn't even think it was going to be worth trying to zoom in on that day, and it still showed up because the roof is so unmistakably bright white. So, okay.
Have you ever seen driving, you're from the south, have you ever seen when you drive down a road, the way all the light on top of the road will shimmer and it's almost impossible for your eyes to figure out what the height of that heat coming off the road is, the way it is interfering and scattering light? You've seen that before, right?
Absolutely. I just drove to
Yeah.
North Carolina recently, and I remember
Right.
being like, oh my gosh, why is the road so
Yeah.
wet? But,
Right.
you know, that works when you're looking at the flat road in front of you, but it doesn't
Right.
work when you're talking about light going around a curve. The way that refraction works is you can make it bend, like using different elements. You can make it bend this, but it doesn't go around a curve. So the conditions that you would need to be set up, like with mirrors, to make it go all the way around to rise that up. And also think about this. If you think about the curve of the Earth, and there's something here that's going up to here, and it's being lifted up by supposed refraction. The atmosphere, if you have a laser going off here, it's close to the surface, and so there's a lot more dense of an atmosphere. But by the time you get over here to where it's coming up, there's so many less particles in the atmosphere because it's up here that's the way that light works. It wouldn't even be distributed properly in order for us to see that. So it's all of these inconsistencies that I'm seeing that blow my mind. And when this first happened, I was so married to the globe. I didn't want my ball taken away. And I tried to make up ideas like, okay, so if these people are aiming to deceive us, maybe we're just on a bigger ball. And maybe there's these hidden lands that are hiding resources, and that's the reason for keeping us in this controlled area. But then I started looking at these laser pointer experiments where people would put over a frozen lake, for example, a laser right up to the surface and put it over, and every measurable distance on that frozen lake, the laser is not changing its elevation. It's still the same distance. So if you want to go down to the minute mathematics, there should be detectable curvature somewhere on some scale. And it's these experiments, mine and Lincoln's in Australia, are very small in comparison to some much bigger ones, like across the Chicago. Like there's one where it's zooming in on Chicago and they claim it to be a mirage, but we already talked about refraction right now. There's no measurable curvature, and no one who believes in the spinning ball has been able to demonstrate to me without showing fake pictures from fake outer space that there's a detectable curvature. And man, I really wish I could show you these pictures from high up. Man, I have some really good pictures I want to show you, but I'll send them to you afterwards.
Yeah, sure. So you talked about there being less particles, and that's the reason that you think possibly light could be bending. What height are you assuming that there's less particles?
Well, as we go higher up in the Earth's atmosphere, there's less.
Are you talking 1,000 feet, or are you just talking a building that's maybe 10 stories high? Like, what are you thinking? Like, how tall is that dome? What is it, about 120 feet high?
Well, I'm just saying compared to the atmosphere where the supposed on a ball, the buildings that we're supposed to be zooming in on should be, and it being lifted up all these hundreds of feet, for example, or in some experiments up to 1,000 feet, that there's going to be a difference in the atmospheric density.
Okay,
It
so
might
what I would
be
suggest, sorry.
soon, pardon my interruption, maybe we, just to be sure we cover as many arguments as we can, we might have to, if one of you is willing to defer to the other, giving them the last word on this particular argument. If there are any others, we also would love to hear those as well.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Mark, give your last.
Okay, two questions for you, and I'll let it wrap up. What I suggest you do, and this is the best way to look into your less particles at a certain height. Grab a barometer, hop in an elevator, and go up to the top of a what you consider a very tall building. I think you'll be surprised how many particles are not missing when you get to that height. You're going to see very, very little change in that barometer. But we'll leave that. I just ask you to do that. Make a note, take a barometer with you, go up. There's not really a whole lot of change over 100, 150, 200 feet, which, by the way, is a 20-story building. They're pretty tall buildings. There's not a lot of change in the atmosphere at that height. The only other thing that kind of jumped out at me is there's no proof of a molten core. What are volcanoes? Well, what do you got going on down there? Where's all this heat coming from?
Oh, I'm not saying that volcanoes don't exist. I do question volcanoes a little bit and how they operate and what I've seen, but I don't want to get into that here. But I will maintain that we have been lied to about absolutely everything. And there's no evidence, just because we have volcanoes is not evidence of a molten core. But what else did you want to ask me about that? Was there another?
No, that's fine. It's just, we can see molten rock we can see magma coming out of the earth. Something's warm down there. Something's gotten that rock pretty hot. So I'm going to suggest, that would be a good indicator that the deeper you go, the warmer it's getting down there. And we see that as we dig down. The temperature does, and I can tell you this is true. Talk to anyone that does mining. As they go deep, miles into the earth, it starts to get very, very hot down there. So,
Right.
can I note we've never drilled, but if you do want to talk about your molten core, which you're denying is there, we do see the effect of what it does to the fields that come off of the sun. We do know that if it was not for that molten core giving us a magnetic field, that we would be in big trouble. I don't know if you agree with that. I don't know what you think the sun is, but I'll let you wrap up on that. I will take the hit on the first one and let you go last on this, and just have to just agree to move on.
Cool. No, yeah. And I'm definitely going to look into the barometer thing and my explanation of the whole atmospheric density. I definitely I don't want to ever take away from the fact that there's no detectable curvature. And so I'm going to take your challenge, and I want to challenge you to look into how refraction works and the fact that it would be absolutely impossible to bend light around a current. And so moving on from that, do you want to go into eclipses?
No, you don't have to go into eclipses. Where's gravity coming from, and why do we see a pretty consistent gravity no matter where we are on the Earth? Why do we find we weigh basically the same no matter where we are, and we would expect, unless you're thinking that we're in a continuous acceleration upwards and that's where we're getting gravity from, what's holding us down? What's causing things to fall at 9.87 meters per second? What is causing that?
Yeah, there is a downward force that's occurring. I can tell you personally, just trying to swim downward in a pool, I can feel that resistance. But the way that gravity is described by the heliocentric model is not a cause, it's an effect. It's not a force. It's so that I wouldn't use that as I reject that as an argument for proof of gravity, the fact that there is a downward force. I think there are other ways to explain things, just like with the molten core and the volcanoes. We don't see that. We've only been able to drill down 8 miles, and then something is preventing us from going further. It just kind of goes boom. I wish that we can come up with more technology and explore further, just like we need more eyes on the sky to try and figure this out. I wish I could give you a definitive model of where we exist, but that's why I love these conversations, because the more people that we have questioning things, the better chance we have of figuring this stuff out. So when it comes to gravity, this is like a big stalemate that is always occurring in these discussions, because people want to believe what they've been told, even though it's just a theory based on a theory. And we see the effect of it, but we can't prove that it's the cause. No one can prove that gravity exists.
Well, we do. We've seen ships get sucked together. We've seen iron ore ships get too close to each other, and they have been sucked together, and they're very hard to get apart. That is a fact. Look it up. It's something that they're very cautious with in shipping yards, that they do not let very massive ships get really close to each other, because they will set up a gravitational field between the two of them. There's definitely attraction. But when you say it's an effect, it's not a cause, then you've got to come up with something that is holding us on this earth. You can't just say, well, gravity hasn't been proven. It's a theory. It's this, it's that. No, it's not. We know we're being held down to the earth. We know that for sure. And if you don't believe it, step off something that's 5 feet high. I don't want to see you get hurt, but you will find out very quickly that you go down. So either you're being pulled down to the earth, or the earth is being pushed up towards you at a speed, an acceleration, the same sort of thing that you feel in a car that holds you against the seat. Acceleration can easily mimic gravity. It feels the same. Everything about it is the same. If you're in an airplane, if you're in something and you curve up very fast, you'll be pushed down in your seat up to, that's what they talk about in jet fighters, where you can, pull G's, one unit of gravity for every G that you pull. So you've got a really difficult thing there, because the flat earth would not give you a central point to be pulled down into. So your friend in Australia, that I think you can agree with me is roughly, I don't know, what are they, 12, 13,000 miles away from us. They've got to be getting closer to the edge of this pancake shaped earth. Why are they feeling the same gravity? Why can I get on a plane, go over there, take my scale with me, and I weigh exactly the same over there?
I don't accept gravity because it hasn't been proven to me. I haven't seen any proof of gravity. I've only seen that, like, the effects of buoyancy and density, and that there's a downward force. So I think that we're having a semantics problem here, and you're describing the same thing that I'm seeing, but you're attributing it to this variable that they're injecting into mathematics to justify a model that literally cannot exist. It's impossible for something like this to exist. And we can get into that more about different measurements that have been taken. But
But Rose, you're feeling it. You're feeling it. You're either being pulled down, or the earth is being pushed up towards you. Either you're being pulled down by gravity, or you're being pushed up. It's the only two ways. It's the only way us as the human condition knows for there to be something like gravity. How are you explaining it?
You're saying that there needs to be gravity to exist if we're on a spinning ball that's hurtling through a vacuum of space.
Well, but even if it's flat, there has to be gravity.
Pardon?
Even if it's flat, it has to be gravity.
Why does a downward force have to be?
Is that an Iron Maiden shirt?
Yes, it is.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you. See,
why does there have to be gravity? Because we're being held down. We're not floating away. There has to be gravity, and we have to be getting it somewhere. Our model says that, yes, everything is pulled down towards the center of the earth, towards the center of the mass, of the equilibrium of the mass, which would be the dead center of the earth. So what I'm saying to you is that there's only two ways for that to happen. Either you've got acceleration up, or you truly have gravity where atoms are attracted to other masses, attracted to mass. So you really got to somehow get that worked out for the flat earth to even exist. And I hear what you say. We don't have to beat this one to death, but that to me is the biggest problem for the flat earth.
Okay, I hear you, man. So I don't accept the model, and I don't accept that we need to be stuck to a ball. And so for me, it's not an issue for me to have downward force existing. I'm opening my mind to different ways to explain this. Have you ever looked into the electromagnetic universe?
Well, yes, of course, but electromagnetic attraction is not explained because we do not have a differential between our. But we would have to have the exact same differential in in forces of like and dislike charges for it to work, and we just don't see that. It's not something that we see. What we see is basically something with a certain molecular density has an attraction to something else with a molecular density that we can chart. Which is not at all like what we see out of electronic or electrical differential attractions. We just don't see that. And if you were to chart it out, I think that would become very obvious to you. When you get into materials with roughly the same molecular density, they are attracted based on density, not by charge. If you know what I'm kind of trying to say here.
Okay, yeah. All right, like let's move on from the gravity idea because I really want to tell you about my experience with solar eclipses.
Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
So my friend known as Crow777, my business partner, who's the host of Crow777 Radio, he's been using some high optics tools to look at both the moon and the sun and has found some amazing anomalies. And that's why I hope that people will check out the show and check out his YouTube channel and our BitChute and see all of the footage that he took. Now, the thing that really blew my mind about the solar eclipse is that and it's not just him, it's so many amateur astronomers who have all tried this. And I wish that we all had telescopes so everyone can go out and test this every time that there's a solar eclipse. But the same result from everyone is that when they're looking at the solar eclipse, the moon moving in front of the sun is never detected. If the sun is the brightest thing that we know of, then it should be so obvious and easy to see the backlit moon approaching it. So it blows my mind that our personal observations do not show that the moon plays any role in the solar eclipse. And I just wanted to tell you about that fact because you mentioned eclipses right in the beginning. And this is one of the things that started opening my mind to the fact that the world has not been described properly. It's been misdescribed. And so there are different old traditions that will describe the eclipses as having something to do with what's called nodes, called Rahu and Ketu. So I'd really love for you to look into that after this as well. But all we can see is this bite coming out of the sun and it moving in front. And anytime that you will see, if someone claims to tell you that they've seen the moon going in front of the sun, it's fake. It's been altered. It's not real. And I would really encourage you to look at real life observations from real amateur astronomers like Crow.
So what's going in front of the sun?
I don't know.
Okay.
No idea, but it's a major
something had to approach it, and something is definitely cylindrical in shape, minimum cylindrical in shape. I'm guessing it's a ball, but you can see it come in and you can see that it has an arc to it. It covers it and it moves out of the other side. So, there you go. I don't know. Again, it's kind of like the whole, well, if you're gonna deny it this way, you've got to kind of give an answer to what you're dealing with. So, but yeah, we can let solar eclipses go. So during the night, where does the sun go?
Okay, so the heliocentric model says that the sun is 93 million miles away and that the moon is 239,000 miles away. And that's another thing about eclipses that I think is crazy. The fact that these two objects that are supposed to be different sizes and different distances can come together perfectly at that moment. I know that's not proof of anything. It just blows my mind. And it seriously makes me question things, especially knowing what I know about the solar eclipses. But so my contention is, like many other flat earthers, and let me repeat, there is no definitive flat earth model. What we're doing is we're questioning the globe and we're not finding any proof of curvature. And so all we can do is come up with ideas of what could possibly explain these things.
But you've still got a very bright thing that's so bright that during the day you cannot look up at it, and it's got to go somewhere on this flat pancake earth. And why can we not see it? And where is the brightness from the moon coming from? We know that it's light off of the sun. So why is the moon bright?
It's so crazy. I think that the moon is creating its own light, and you can look at the inverse square law to learn more about that. I have so much to show you. Like, I'm going to send you a whole entire document with all this information, but I think that the sun and the moon are luminaries. I have no idea what they are. It drives me crazy. I hope that within my lifetime I get more answers, but I think that they are going around the earth. They're navigating around the earth. And I also can gift you an app that can show you more about this, but they're much, much closer than the mainstream model wants you to believe. They're much closer. And so, are you familiar with attenuation?
Yeah.
Okay, so if the sun is a lot closer and it's moving through the atmosphere and we don't know what the model looks like, but so about half of where we live, our populated areas that we're aware of are lit during the day. There's like for half of the day, it's going around the 24-hour cycle. It's closer. It's closer
Do you
to.
think this thing's doing a figure eight, or what's it doing?
It's doing a circle. And that's another thing that you mentioned earlier that reminded me that you can do experiments where you put over a flat earth map, you can put like a magnetized thing to represent the North Pole. And then if you take a compass and you move it around the map in a westward direction, it's still always pointing north. So on a flat earth model, a compass still works. So that's what I mean is that when we all put our heads together and try and figure out, okay, we know we've been lied to. We know there are these major problems with the heliocentric model. If we put our heads together and get creative and open our minds to different possibilities, there are other ways to explain the observations that we do make. And that's why I want to get into the whole idea of spinning with you as well, if you want to get into that.
But there is actually no problem whatsoever with the ball Earth. You're just saying that there's problems. We don't have anything. There's nothing that you can mathematically show that is wrong with it. And yet we can show everything is mathematically correct in what we see. And then the other thing that you got to ask yourself is what's powering the sun? We know that the sun needs to be a certain size for it to collapse and do what it's doing, changing hydrogen. How are you explaining this? It cannot be just a little thing. We know that, or the earth would collapse in on itself if something that small, that close. I'm assuming you think it's much smaller than we think it is, but 1,000,000 times bigger than the earth. So again, you need a certain amount of size for this to happen.
Yeah, I know that it's frustrating that we don't know what the sun is, but
Well, we do though, that's the thing. And we see the effect of it, and what we know is going on up there, we can see it in the spectrum of the light. It's exactly what we'd expect it to be. For what we got going on up there as it's fusing, it's exactly what we'd expect to see.
Well, are you able to prove to me how the distance to the sun was determined? Because there's no proof of how we determined the distance of the sun. And that is a
Well,
very...
What do you mean how we determined? Like, all this was done before we ever took pictures. I hear flat earthers talk a lot about how the pictures from space are fake and we've been lied to and all those pictures. But we figured out that the earth was a ball long before we ever had pictures from space. We've known this for hundreds of years. They did experiments with shadows, like, for instance, to tell time. It just simply would not work on a flat earth. Just look up whether or not a sundial would work on a flat earth, and it's been shown mathematically that it would not.
That's all assuming that the sun is at a specific distance, which we can't prove. So I don't accept any of those experiments. Those experiments will work on a flat plane if the sun is a lot closer than what's been described to us. And we know that we've been lied to, that the people that have been teaching you these things have been indoctrinated by a whole entire system that has aimed to deceive us. And there are reasons for it. And I want to get down to the truth. I don't want to just accept what's been told to me, that the sun is this arbitrary 93 million miles away. There is no mathematics that you can bring up to me to prove that the sun is at that distance.
But Yeah, but you like the inverse square law, so you believe that math works. So
Right.
we can tell by the color of the light coming off of it. We can tell again, like I went back to the spectrum of the light, we can tell exactly what the temperature of the sun is, down to the point that we can see different points on the sun and tell you what those temperatures are by looking at the color that's coming off of it. So we know how hot it is, and we know, you talked about your inverse square law, we know how hot it would be at a certain distance, and that's what it works out to. So we know exactly how much radiation we should be getting off of it, and that's what we get. We work it out in watts per square meter. That's how we detect the heat that falls down on the earth at different locations on the earth. And like, this is all mathematically proven. This is the part. But then you'll say things like, well, there's no, obviously I have no possible way of measuring how far away the sun is. Even if you gave me the equipment to do it, I probably wouldn't know how to use it. Like, I think we can all agree on that. There's a certain amount of stuff on this in this world that we just have to believe that the people that specialize in it are telling us the truth. I know in my field, I have no reason to lie to anybody what my specialty is. So I'm assuming that the thousands and thousands of physics majors and astronomers out there would have really no reason to lie to us. You really got to get down to the point of, why are we being lied to, Rose?
I think we're being lied to in order to keep the people so dumbed down that we're easy to control. I think that there is so much more potential for humanity. I think that the world that we're existing in is not acceptable. I do not accept the way that humanity is at this time. And I feel that if we weren't being lied to about the nature of reality, that we would be in a much, much better place. But let me ask you something. I want to know your take on this, unless you want to respond to what I just said.
Yeah, well, if you're talking about the earth being dumbed down, why would you have to go to a flat earth? Why can't we just talk about religion? Because that's the whole idea of religion, is the dumbing down of society. So, we don't need to talk about a pancake earth. Religion takes care of dumbing down of society, in believing in magic and believing in, like, religion is all about, and I can't say all of it, but young earth creationism is all about denying all the science that we see on Earth. So we don't need a pancake Earth to talk about a discipline of dumbing down society.
All right. Well, I think that that's an opinion. I think that
Oh, sure, it's an opinion. Yeah.
yeah. So you don't think that it's necessary to deceive people on this grand scale, and I
Well,
do.
we do. We
It,
do deceive, and that's called religion. Religion, one of the biggest deceptions that we have been dealing with for tens of thousands of years. That's exactly what religion is. Religion is deception. We start indoctrinating kids at birth. James is about to give me shit here for getting off subject, so I'm gonna leave it at that. And I can tell you, I don't know where you stand on religion, but basically what you're saying about the ball Earth, compared to flat Earth, it's exactly like arguing young Earth creationism with a creationist. Yeah, I feel like we're just exchanging words here. That's honestly the way I feel right now.
I love exchanging words, and I want to share why I came to this
Yeah,
understanding. I want to know where you're at too, and I think that it would be totally impossible for you to change your complete worldview, everything that you've understood, in just an hour's time. I mean, this when I first came to this idea, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I didn't even want to look at it. I was embarrassed to even think about it. It was just so ridiculous. But I love that you brought up religion, because to me, I see the ball earth as the biggest religion that ties together all of the other religions. So you got a bunch of Christians in this area, you got a bunch of people in India believing in this thing in that area, you got the people, you got Odinists in Norway, but everyone believes in the spinning ball. So what a great way to bring all the religions together and to control everyone under this big umbrella.
understood.
Okay. So here's another thing about the moon that I think is so crazy. This is personal observations that have done by myself and other people that are listeners of Crow 777 Radio that have reached out to us. And I just want to know if you've ever heard of this and how you would explain it. It turns out that moonlight is colder than the shadows at night. So if it's the sun that was reflecting off of the moon, and I already brought up another reason why we can show that the moon is possibly giving off its own light, but that's also to explain, because you're like, how could it work? Like, why would we see the moon at night? But why would the moonlight be colder if it was the sunlight hitting it than in the shade?
What are you talking about colder? Where are you measuring this temperature from?
A thermometer. When you put a thermometer in the moonlight, like on a full moon.
So what are you pointing it at? So you're expecting moonlight to be warmer than what? Than a shadow?
Right. So if I'm in the moonlight and I have my water bottle on the ground,
right,
and it's going around here, and then there's the shadow, this in the shadow that's not being hit by the moon is going to be warmer. Wait, okay, now I'm getting mixed up here. The moonlight should be warmer because it's light hitting from the sun, but instead
right,
colder.
yeah,
So
but
it's
how much?
the shadow.
Okay, understood, Rose. But how much, you do realize though that we're not dealing with the difference in light absorption of say the sun. So here you're dealing with a really big number when you're dealing with the sun, and you're using this really inaccurate thing that we call a thermometer. And I don't know what kind you used and what it was worth, but the reason that we can just take this thermometer and measure sunlight with it and get this huge variation on the scale, how far it can move the mercury or the alcohol or whatever it is because it's a very strong force. So again, we're measuring that in watts per square meter. Moonlight is an extremely small amount of energy. As a matter of fact, when it shines down on a solar panel, which I happen to, my house up to about 2 years ago was off grid, so everything was solar. You don't even get enough power out of sunlight or out of moonlight to overcome the small amount of wattage that it costs to run the converters that take the 24 volts in and puts it to the battery. So they have charge controllers, and they would be like 22 watts. So something that through the day would be making 10,000 watts can't even offset. So what they do at night is you just shut it down. You shut the charge controller down so it's not, and it automatically goes into a rest mode. So do you know what I'm trying to say here? You're trying it's like using a sledgehammer on a finishing nail, where the sledgehammer has this huge ability to do work. You're now talking about something that's very small, and you're trying to measure it with the same device that you're normally using to measure. So you really need to look at how you're measuring it. But I am telling you that if light is shining down on something, it is going to be warmer than something in a shadow. And if you're not observing that, I would love you to do a video one day with a very accurate thermometer and show us that. And I will check into it too, because if that's the case, I don't know what to say to you there.
I don't know what to say either. And I don't have an answer for why that would be. Nobody knows what the heck is going on with the moon. And that's why I hope we remain friends and that we keep in touch. And that,
I never would not be friends.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, that's why I asked you the question, is because I just want to know your initial take, because it does sound so crazy. Because yes, and no matter how much the sun is hitting it, like whatever you want to say about what's causing it, light is more energy, and so that's supposed to be warmer. So I'm just saying that there are inconsistencies that really make people think, why don't we talk about the Earth spinning?
Right, but all I can say to you is, if you are going to measure that, you're going to have to do a very controlled experiment, because it is a very small amount of energy, and it's going to be a hard energy to measure. That's all I'm saying. You could have residual heat coming out of the ground from the daylight. There's just a lot of stuff that could throw your experiment off. So just make sure it's very controlled, however you do it.
You're right. I should do my own video, and I should redo this experiment and do it on my own and make it as specific as possible. And I would even come to you for advice on how to.
There you go. Perfect.
Exactly how I'm going to do it, and then we can maybe present it together and just be like,
perfect.
Okay.
In our second debate about religion. So
we have time for just a little bit more in terms of
and we have
topics. And
spinning
then we've
Earth.
got to go into the Q&A.
Okay, cool,
Then
cool.
we just go to debate too. Don't worry about it. So go to your spinning Earth. Let explain to me where the spinning Earth is the got you moment.
Okay, all right. So the luminiferous ether is what is like the stuff that light travels through.
Right.
In my view, the luminiferous ether is what we is how it needs a media to travel through. Okay, so if you got a gyroscope and you're measuring on the equator 15 degrees of drift, people say that that is evidence for the spinning Earth, because if you take 360 degrees and you divide it by 24, you get 15. So that is how people explain the 15 degrees that is being measured on the gyroscope at the equator. Now, here's the trippy thing. You know how people describe the luminiferous ether as like a vortex, and if you look at a tornado, it's faster on the bottom and it's slower at the top. Now, we have done experiments. Well, I haven't done this one personally, it's a friend, but where you stay at the exact same latitude, and from one elevation, you measure it, and then you go to a 10,000 feet elevation difference, okay, at the same exact latitude. The elevation should not change your results. It's a huge problem. It makes it totally impossible that it could be the rotation spinning. And so we've got more than a degree difference between the 10,000 feet difference on the same latitude. That is impossible. It should be measured the exact same way. But if you go from like a mountain on at one spot on the latitude, and then you go down to the plains, you get a different result on that same gyroscope. So that's just food for thought. It's something for you to think about. It's something for maybe when we come back again that you can offer me an explanation on how that could possibly.
Yeah, you got to explain that better. I'm not even sure what you're doing there, but that's fine. We don't want to spend too much time on that because I'm not going to be able to answer you because I'm not sure what the experiment you're doing is, and I'm not sure who was able to do that. Go from 10,000 feet down to sea level again. But that's fine. So how do you explain? Drains, your friend in Australia, it really does drain opposite. And I know that. I've been to Australia and I've seen it. So, why do we see that? Why do we see storms, north of the equator spinning one way and south of the equator spinning the opposite? What's that all about?
You know what? I actually don't have an explanation. I haven't looked into that. I know that there is an answer for that, but that's not part of what I have already.
No, that's fine.
So
That's fine. I just thought I would ask you because you can talk to your friend in Australia and you can both, and you don't have to flush a toilet. I understand that a toilet's designed to spin a certain way. They do make toilets different for the north and southern hemisphere, but a simple sink without any design to set up a vortice, you will find it goes down the opposite way. And that is what we would expect of a ball spinning. We would expect that.
There is an explanation for the Coriolis effect, but I would be like
Okay.
just repeating and regurgitating back what someone else said. I haven't done my own research on that. So thank you so much for reminding me of that ball earth argument. And I'm going to look into that more. And so all I can do is thank you for bringing that up. I don't
no problem.
remember what the answer to that was from what other people have said.
Okay, I think I've asked you most of the questions. You want to just, are we okay, James? Maybe for 5 minutes, you could ask me a couple questions and we could get to your
Sounds good.
your questions. You okay with that?
Sounds good.
Okay. Where'd you go, Rose? Ask away.
Oh, we're on the question and answer. Okay, so it's
no, you can just ask me I've asked you most of the questions. I was just, kind of reviewing in my head how this debate has gone, and I think I've asked you most of the questions. So go ahead. Do you have anything that you want to ask? Me to explain if it's a ball, how this could possibly be like this, and that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, we went through a lot of the stuff here. You explained your stance on why, you think that there's curvature. I mean, I can go into okay, I mean, I could just keep hitting you up with why I think that we have been lied to and all of the deception that is going to.
Yeah, and you see, and that's what I'm saying. I could do the same. Like my next thing to ask you would be, why do we always see weather patterns in the northern hemisphere coming in from the west to the east? And we know it's true because we have the fires right now in California and the smoke is just making it here now. So we do know that something is causing these weather patterns to generate in general for us west to east. And I could go on with thousands and thousands of these things, and yet in the southern hemisphere we see it the other way. We know for a fact that we have sand in the continent of America that we know has come from Africa. We can study it. We know it's the exact same sand. So we know that we have, just stuff like that. There's so many things to me that seal it as being a ball. Especially when I look up at the moon and I see a ball. I look up at the sun, I see a ball. If I look through a telescope and I look at Mars or any of the planets, I see a ball. So, it's just,
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing.
I know exactly what you mean. And I always used to think that too. When I look up at the moon and it looks like a total sphere, I'm like, okay, I know that that's not proof of where I am. That's like looking at a pool table and saying, because the balls are balls, that the table is a ball. Like, as that aside, there's an experiment that my friend did, and I'll send you a link to this video if you want as well, called Is It a Sphere? And she did an experiment where she showed it looked like from the camera, all different balls, but in reality, one of them was convex, one of them was concave, one of them was half, one of them was flat. So it really could just be a matter of perception with that as well. And
You're saying optically, it was hard to tell what they were. Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah.
So, and you're going to love that experiment too. I love all these firsthand observations that show us that our eyes could be deceiving us. Now, when it comes to the weather, I'm totally not denying that weather exists. Especially being in Louisiana and growing up in California, where just in the same week we're having fires over there and we're having hurricanes over here.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever heard of the Hermetic principle of as above, so below? Like, I like to think about things that can be observed, and we see, like, if you have an alchemical flask, there can be all sorts of things going on within it, and it's not the same density or pressure or interactions going on in one part of the bottle to another. And that's why it's really important to bring up the second law of thermodynamics, which describes entropy, and that you cannot have gas pressure without a container. So we didn't even get into that we are probably in an enclosed system, and it's that enclosed system that is creating all of the different interactions within it. And so
you don't think Saturn exists? Saturn is only a gas ball. That's all it is, gas.
Well, I know I can see Saturn through a telescope. It's really extremely beautiful, that's for sure. But all I know is that it's a light in the sky. And I believe that the sun, the moon, and all of the lights that we see in the sky are way closer. And maybe they're attached, or maybe they're growing off of the hard, fast barrier like crystals. Who knows what they are? We can't go there. But yeah.
I can ask you to do, one thing I really want you to look into is look into the spectrum, how we know the temperature and the makeup of something that we're looking at that gives off an energy. Okay, please look that up, because I think you'll find how good we are at this to be very surprising. And when you look into the science of it and on what we can figure out when we look at something, a lot of science, when we figure out what's the components of a certain thing, we burn it. And we look at the spectrum, and we look at it on a computer screen. We have all these little notches that go up and down and up and down. And every one of those notches, you'll see, will be aluminum. It'll be magnesium. It'll be X here. And it is so accurate. It's scary. Just look up that science. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank. But just look up the science of that, and I think you'll be really surprised. And that's how we know what Saturn is made of. That's how we know what the sun is made of. It's how we know so many things. But I can see James here behind us getting anxious. So one thing I can say is I know the questions here are going to be a lot more polite than what I'm usually used to. Usually this is where I sit back and kick my feet up and listen to all the questions, insult my opponent. But you're far too nice of a lady for anyone to do that to. So I think I might be in trouble on this one. I think a lot of people are going to stand up for you. So James, Unless
don't know if
Rose
it's enough
has
for me
has
just
something
because
to. You're just far too nice of a lady for anyone to come in with what I'm used to at the end of a debate.
Well, I think that you're really nice too. And I don't want
Thank
anyone
you.
who came in here who knew me, and that's why they're here. I don't want anyone to attack you because I think that you're awesome. And I think that you're actually more open-minded than people in the chat might have been saying. I haven't been looking at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
I am going to look into how the scientists in what I'll call the globe religion, sorry, because I just realized that that might trigger you since you don't seem to be a
I
religious
don't
dude.
get triggered. I've only ever
That
had one
triggers
person
him.
trigger me, and that was Nathan.
Oh,
Only because I assumed he was screwing me over. I don't know. James will know who he was. I don't know. I
Nathan
yeah,
just thought
I'm
it
Thompson
going to
was.
will
look
be
into what,
back.
how they.
Yeah, I thought it was just so far off in left field. I just assumed that I was being set up. I thought that James was going to tell me I was being punked at the end of it or something.
Oh, I wish I knew what you were talking about. I'll have to look back in the things. But I am going to look into how science explains how we know what Saturn's made of and what
Yeah,
it.
there's a lot of that,
I'm going
and
to
and
maintain
then
my position that I don't
yeah,
accept what I am told by these authority figures. I'm somewhat of an
right.
anarchist. I'm somewhat of a rebel. Maybe I'm setting myself back thousands of years trying to figure it out all on my own. And I think that's hard work. And like I said, I hope in my lifetime I can learn more. But I have so much high hopes for humanity. I think that we can evolve our consciousness to really figure out what's actually going on, because I do know that we have been lied to on such a massive scale. And I do not accept curvature. I do not accept gravity. I do not accept rotational spin. All of these things, I do not accept what you have told me, but I am going to look into all of the specific things that you have presented with me with to expand my knowledge base and be able to better respond in the future.
Perfect. And my last question to you to prove that you didn't just buy the t-shirt, what's your favorite two Iron Maiden songs?
Oh, hallowed be thy name. And when I
Okay.
was just listening to is Passchendaele, but I also love Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I
Then you're
even
for
like the
real.
stuff, Dance of
You're
Death,
for real. I thought you just bought the sweater.
Remember Tomorrow. I love
Take
Blade.
it away, James.
Okay, dude, you're awesome. Thank you for asking me that questions. I love to prove that. I hate it when people just buy a band shirt and they.
Oh, so do I.
Oh, dude, we're gonna be friends forever.
All right, with that, we will jump into Q&A. I want to remind you, folks, each of the speakers' links are in the description. So if you'd like to hear more, they're waiting for you down in the description box. And Mike Billars, thanks for your question, says, Rose, I hiked Black Elk Peak in South Dakota. I only saw the tiny top of Hogback Mountain in Nebraska. I couldn't see Mount Elbert in Colorado. I don't know why. Do you know why?
I would love to figure out why. I would need to see those things on a map because I'm not familiar with those areas. Is what you can tell me, maybe James, because you're more experienced with getting these kinds of questions after a flat Earth debate. Is he saying that on a flat Earth he should have been able to see all of those things from his position?
I think so. The reason I know that Mount Elbert should be a lot higher. It is a lot higher in Colorado. And when he said, I hiked Black Elk Peak in South Dakota, I only saw the tippy top of Hogback Mountain in Nebraska, and I couldn't see Mount Elbert in Colorado at all. I think that he's saying like that this is best explained by the curve, because if those peaks, like as you're looking at them from when they're far away, he's trying to argue that if they're on a flat plane, then you should be able to see those peaks fairly well, but if they're curved, then this one down here you wouldn't be able to see as well, if that makes sense. That's the argument.
That's right. Yeah, that makes sense, James.
I hope that you have pictures. Okay, my email address is rosedavidson, the number 4, humanity@gmail.com. And I would love to make a ton of new friends and address all of your questions directly. This is going to be awesome. If you have any pictures to send me, please do, because I really do believe that there is an explanation for everything and we've got to work together to find it.
You got
And
it.
I have no idea what those elevations are, but it does sound like a very compelling question. And I just know that there's a way to get to the bottom of it. So please do contact me. Rose Davidson, the number 4, humanity@gmail.com for any of the, I wish you put in the numbers of the elevations. Anyway, thank you for your question. And I hope to hear from you.
You got it. And thanks for your question from Uzi, hopefully I'm saying that right, says in all caps, by the way, Nathan Thompson is the man. Put some respect on his name. So, Nathan, you've got a fan. Rose, you know who Nathan Thompson is?
Yes, I do.
Of
I think
course. Okay. Gotcha.
he has a
Let's
different
see.
approach than I do to these debates.
So yeah, Mark Drysdale's son, Nathan Thompson, is a regular here. So, but we've got another one. This one comes in from Steven Steen, nasty guy. I have to read it though. He says, "The Earth is like James's abs, flat, rock hard, and steaming hot." Okay, nasty guy. Mike Billars, thanks for your super chat. Said, "Why can South Africans and Australians both see the Southern Cross, but no one in Europe can? Aren't they on opposite sides of your flat Earth?"
Okay, repeat that question to me one more time.
They said, "Why can South Africans and also Australians both see the Southern Cross, but no one in Europe can? Aren't they on opposite sides of your flat Earth, namely South Africa and Australia?"
I think that would be explained by the fact that these stars are billions and billions of miles away, that they're much closer to us. That would be my response.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the constellations are a big problem. When you look at all the constellations, like you can't see the North Star from the Southern Hemisphere. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff there that you have to look at. And even if they're up there, let's give them a number. Even if they're 1,000 miles, all these stars up on a flat Earth, there should be nowhere that you wouldn't be able to see those stars from.
You mean with the telescope, though, not your naked?
Yeah, with a telescope. Well, even with your naked eye, you should be able to see them. Again, we know how bright they are.
I think that from the way that I'm imagining it, if all of these luminaries are close to us, then you wouldn't be able with the naked eye to see them from the same location. But oh wait, can I ask you a question, Mark, really quick before we go to the next? Okay, because I've never even asked a flat earther this question. So, and this might not even be a flat earth thing. I appreciate your point of view and you're here right now. So I noticed I really like the Orion constellation. And so when I'm on Kauai, the Orion constellation will like look more fat to me. And then if I'm in Montreal, it might look more like elongated. And then on in like the Netherlands, it'll be like a completely different dimension. So how would you explain that on the?
And it's all at the same time, you're saying? Or how far apart are these time frames? Is this something that you've looked at? Or is it something that you're saying from all the different observatories, all the constellations look different? Because that's what we're talking about. We're looking at constellations that you can't even see from other spots on the globe. That's exactly what they were saying about the Southern Cross. You can't see it. So as you come up and over the equator, it's going to completely change the way that it looks. That's what we're saying. There's stars that for the southern, something that would look to me at nighttime to be right on my horizon in the Southern Hemisphere is straight up in the sky. So all those constellations are going to flatten out like a pancake.
Yeah. Next. So I think my question was that since they're much closer than we think, they're going to appear differently from different spots at the same time. So if I'm on Kauai, but here's the problem: I can't call someone in the Netherlands if it's nighttime on Kauai because it's daytime over there.
I know the whole sun thing is a big problem for a flat Earth. I agree.
Well, because it's closer and it's moving around.
Okay.
Let's go to the next question.
We'll give Rose the last word on that because the original super chat was for her. We'll move quickly through the ones we have. I do want to mention a separate note because we do have most of our mods are here right now. Is I want to mention we are wanting to ask mods. You can still share your opinion. So if you are flat Earth or globe Earth and you're like, hey, here's my argument for why it's a flat Earth or globe Earth, cool. Feel free. But we're kind of making the standards higher for the mods in terms of if you're a moderator and you are insulting people, do me a favor, folks. Don't be afraid to call it to my attention if I miss it and just say, hey, did you see that so-and-so just a few chats up just called so-and-so a blank? Let me know because that way I can address it. We do want our mods to, we are going to be more, we're going to raise the standard such that we want them to be friendly to everybody. And so I know that a lot of you in the chat, because you're sick in the head, you are going to now try to attack some of the mods to try to get them to be mean. So don't do that either. Please, try to get along. So next question, this one comes in from Richard Ashton. Appreciate your question. Said, in crazy times, us all stuck inside, flat earthers are the people I like to challenge. So you got a critic out there, Rose, and said, in 6 months time, people like Nathan Thompson, you can never have a flat earth debate without his name coming up, will be regarded as national treasures. We all love Mark. Or wait, what is it? We all love... Anyway, I'm not sure who they meant by that. Okay, but thank you for that. I'm going to jump to the next one. They said we all love the bad guy. They're referring to it in a playful way toward Nathan. Sorry, folks. Long day. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. But we do have another question. This one comes in from Apocalypse here. Says, has Rose ever looked out the window of a plane?
Yes. And you know what? From a commercial, I actually flew a Cessna. So not only did I look out the window, I looked out the front. And I remember even saying to myself, ooh, I think I could see curvature, because I didn't know any better. And you know what? I even had a picture. I wish I could have shown my pictures tonight. We got to figure this out together, James, so I can come back and then give a better presentation on whatever the topic is next time and actually share my screen. But I was going to kind of trick you a little bit, Mark, and be like, hey, look at this picture. Doesn't it, you notice the apparent curvature, right? And then you probably would have said yes. That would have been my guess. But then I was going to...
No, you can't. There's no height you could get to in an airplane that you should be able to see curvature ever. And that is just because you have to picture yourself on a ball. Your horizon is always going to be in the same position, and it's going to look flat.
Yeah.
Always going to look flat. I don't care how high you get up.
Yeah, exactly. That's the answer. That's the correct answer. And even Neil deGrasse Tyson, there's like the whole Red Bull jump where the guy's jumping from space, and they were using a GoPro lens, which is fisheye. So it was
right.
It, and you could even see there was like a metal piece, and you can prove that the metal piece, just like girls who Photoshop their waists and then on the mirror behind them is curved too, kind of like that idea. But so even Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, that stuff is flat. He even does this with his arm, which is like the flat earth symbol. But anyway, even your Lord of the Globe religion will explain that to everyone.
If it should be flat, and it would look flat.
Stick that in your pipe and smoke it, Mark. All right, next one. We have, just teasing. We have Stupid Whore Energy strikes again, saying refraction causes the object behind the curve to appear higher than its actual position. That's why you can see it.
No, that's not the way that refraction works. It's impossible to make light go around a curve. If you look up how refraction works, it hits something and then it redirects its energy and it goes straight. But we're talking about refraction causing something around a curve to lift up, and that is not the way that refraction works. I really want to challenge people to look into how refraction works and how standard refraction assumes the radius. See, all of these variables are so important when you're talking about specific mathematics. You can't pre-assume variables that have not been proven. Like the distance from, how do we know the difference from here to the molten core when we've never gone below 8 miles? So yeah, let's keep this conversation going. And follow me on my channel and submit questions to me as well so that I can address them on the Poppycock Report.
You got it. Thanks for that. And thanks for your question. This one coming in from GPS, who asks, Rose, why won't anyone on Flat Earth test how GPS works?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking that. We had a guest on Code 777 Radio. It was so many years ago, but it was a guy that worked for Sirius Radio. He used to work for Sirius, and he's talking about how that's all ground-based technology. And also, I have pictures here on my screen that I wanted to show you of all of these satellites that have fallen out of the sky. And one just happened recently, and they're connected to balloons. And so they look exactly like the satellites. We don't have any real pictures of satellites in space. And oh my gosh, there's this other I don't even know what it's called. I don't know where it was going, but I think I think it was going to Mars. And this satellite literally looks like a ceiling fan. And they even have like, it looks like a little chain coming down. I've got it, Mark. I'm going to show you these pictures, and it's supposed to be a real picture, and it's totally fake. All of these satellites in space, we have no proof that they exist. They're probably attached to balloons, and all of the GPS is a result of ground-based technology. And that is why, if we had these wonderful satellites that were working in space all the way up there, then shouldn't we have great reception all over the place? But if there's no GPS between like California and Kauai.
Who told you that?
Consistencies pardon?
Who told you that? GPS works everywhere. It's in every airplane now. It works all over the earth. There's nowhere that GPS doesn't work. We triangulate off of different satellites. There's nowhere that GPS doesn't work.
Well, triangulation can occur off of different things. Like they say that they do triangulation off of the ionosphere. There's lots of pilots that I've known that or maybe they're using radar, but not that
no, you can't use radar. That's not how radar works. No, really, we're using GPS. GPS is in all of our airplanes now. We've done away with LORAN systems that used to work off of radio stations. Now we use GPS, and it's good enough to fly us everywhere on Earth, everywhere.
Just to keep us moving. I got to give Rose the last word on this, and then we do have to keep moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to look into GPS more because, maybe I made a mistake with GPS on that one, but if GPS is working absolutely everywhere, all over our flattened stationary plane, it's a result of ground-based technology or satellites that are being hung within our atmosphere from balloons.
Gotcha.
That's a lot of work.
And thank you for your question. Mike Billars says, lasers or laser on the water? You mean like Jeranism? I'm not sure what they mean.
I'm friends with Jaron, so I know exactly who he's talking about of the Jeranism channel. But no, I don't even think that I'm referring to Jaron's experiment. I don't know what Jaron did specifically. I'm talking about a different experiment over a lake. I think it was Karen B, or was it John D? I think it was John D that I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Jism proved himself wrong. That's what Jism did when he was doing his experiment.
We have to keep moving. I'm so sorry, Mark.
That shouldn't have worked.
We do have to keep moving. Did. If you want to defend Jeranism, Rose, I can give you a chance to do that. Otherwise, we do have to keep moving, Mark. And we just talked about.
Well, I got no questions.
So I'll try to work some in for you.
I'm sorry that I don't have Jaron's experiment. I'm not familiar with his experiment. Bad me, but I'll talk to Jaron, and I will contact me. I'll talk to Jaron, and I will explain what happened later.
And thank you. And Stupid Whore Energy strikes again, saying, what does Rose think is casting that circular shadow on the moon during a lunar eclipse?
What is cast? I'm not sure. I don't know what's causing it, but the eclipses are not as described. They are not as a result of the heliocentric model. That's the best that I can say. We got to get our telescopes out on the sky from different locations all at the same time and pool our research together, gather more data. Because like I said, I do not trust the authority figures that are perpetuating this ball religion.
Gotcha. And thanks for your question from Mike Billars again. Says, Rose, I took the Inter-Islander ferry across the New Zealand islands, and I couldn't get cell reception halfway through, but I sure got a GPS fix. Why is this?
Okay, thank you for the question, because I guess what I was doing was I was confusing but exactly what he just said. I was confusing GPS with
cell service.
Cell service, yes. I don't know. I have to look into this more. So thank you for the question. I definitely want to look into all of these things way more. I came here with the reasons why I have been convinced that we're on a flat and stationary plane, and I want to add more to my knowledge base. I know that there is an answer for these things. James, how many of my friends in chat are hating me right now for not knowing the answers to these questions?
I think you've had
and
a
let
ton
me
of
make
support,
it clear that
actually.
all cell service is ground-based, except we do move large amounts of data between satellites. But
Gotcha.
Your reception does not come from a satellite. It comes from a cell service on ground.
Yes, I will agree with that.
Okay.
And next up, we have Mike Billars asking again, now a different question. Says, Rose, you know why gravity is a fictitious force? Question mark.
Why do I know that it's a fictitious force? Because I don't accept the whole mass attracting mass model that the heliocentric describes. I
Gotcha.
only recognize that there is a downward force, but that's I don't describe that as gravity. I describe it as buoyancy and density. I don't know how exactly the true model of what is described works, but I am open to suggestions. There are a lot of different theories.
Gotcha. And Sigilredo Sarabia in the house, thanks for your question, says, by the way, you ever notice Sigilredo will ask questions either side. This one is for you, Mark. They said, Mark, are you using an appeal to authority to say Rose is wrong? How would you explain the globe without the authority to tell you what you're seeing, especially when explaining an illusion or phenomenon you accept is real?
Well, we don't really go by authority. We go by consensus. So we even allow crackpots to come up with ideas. And that's not what I'm saying Rose is. But we take everything that people have to say and then we try to mathematically prove or disprove it. So we do come up with the best models that we can. But one thing I will always admit to you is I'm not a professional. All of these ideas that I have, except for in my discipline where I push it forward, are all what I read and you educate yourself on. So you take a lot of people's words for things. But what I would like to say is we don't take one person's word for how far away the sun is. It's thousands of people have done the calculations and they all come up with the same answer. So is it to authority? Yeah, you do. A lot of what you believe, your education, is not all self-experiment. You do have to, at a certain point, believe that what you're reading in books is true. And everybody has their own discipline. If you're in the scientific realm, and like I say, I do my thing that I'm good at, and I'm telling you, the thousands of people that share my discipline, we don't lie. We don't make stuff up. We try to disprove each other, if anything.
You're gonna make
me
cry, Mark, because you're a nice guy and you don't seem like a liar. And so it's probably really, really hard for you to imagine that there are people out there that would lie.
Well, it would have to be hundreds of thousands of them, not to talk about all the people that are going around tying shiny balls to balloons and sending them up every day. It's a lot of work to keep this lie going, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I don't think that it has to be that many people that are actually lying. I think they're indoctrinated. They think they're like by that line of reasoning, someone could say that if you're wrong, then you're lying, but you're not lying. You're just repeating what you've been told. And,
right.
and so there are lots of things that we learn in can I try to explain really quick how I feel about the gravity thing, since that was a question and I didn't really give a good answer.
Super fast, because we have like a ton of questions still, so really quick.
Okay. So like cause and effect, like I remember when I was in biology, I was having a hard time with memorizing the Krebs cycle. Like I knew all I had to do was just memorize it and I was going to get an A. But what annoyed me is because I wanted to understand what is the force, what is the thing that's making the cell do this step, and this step. A lot of people will say that it's God or some kind of divine force, and then what the book said is that it's like ATP, that is the energy that's causing it. But I really wanted to just visualize and be able to like have this vision that saw the will of it, the actual cause from the beginning, like the moment that we become a zygote, the moment of fertilization. I mean, I don't know how else to describe mom and dad put down the building blocks, but then all of a sudden you get this whole entire new life. Like I really want to understand these things, and there's a lot of things that science can't explain. And so when you pre-assume certain things is just happening, that's how I kind of see gravity, that okay, we see the effect of it, and so we're just going to make up this variable that is causing it without actually proving that that is what's causing it.
You got it. Let's see. Because the question was originally for Mark, I'll give you the last word, Mark. Short and pithy, if you can help me out.
Yes, I can make it really quick. I hate to say it, Rose, but what your brain was designed to understand was how not to get attacked by lions and large prey on the savannas. We were not designed to be able to understand the vastness of the universe and how it works. So do not be upset that you have troubles envisioning things. It's something that all mankind has struggled with. We cannot fathom these large numbers and the stuff that we're trying to understand. Do not downplay your mind, because we all struggle with that. The visualization, it's something we're not good at.
Well,
Next
on a
up, Mike
philosophical level,
Billars.
I'm at war with solipsism. I do believe that the truth can be known, and I'm on a mission to find it as much as I can. That's my stance.
You got it. And Mike Billars, thanks for your super chat, said, don't miss the after show on Logical, Plausible, Probables channel 5 minutes after the debate. Quote, just kidding. I don't think he's hosting one. I don't either. That's surprising. He usually does one every night. But by the way, folks, if you are a flat earther, if you are a globe earther, or if you're an agnostic earther, whatever you are, if you want to host an after show, let us know. We'll link you in the description, and we can tell people where you're hosting it. So let us know if you want to. Next, Movie Theory says, Rose is a queen. Another flat earth victory. You have a fan out there, Rose. And then Sigifredos Arabia in the house says, Rose, if you were to believe things had an aura, would you say ours or everything has a spherical shape? How would you explain Earth's respect to everything? I think they're maybe asking, do you think that all of the planets are flat or just Earth? That's my best guess. I have no idea what they're asking.
Okay, good question. If that is what they're asking, like, I think that a huge indication that something is being hidden is that if people will go to the internet right now and search for flat earth information, they might get sent to the Flat Earth Society, which is totally controlled opposition, which makes it seem like flat earthers think that we're like a disc going through the vacuum of space amongst all these different planets. And that is totally not what we think. We don't accept the heliocentric model whatsoever. Space is totally fake. I think that we're in an enclosed system, and that we can kind of consider this like the basement. Maybe it's infinite. Maybe we're just a crater in an infinite plane with all these different little puddles of different continents, but that's just speculation. It's just a thought experiment. So do I know what the luminaries are? No, I don't know what they are. All I know is that they are lights in the sky. A lot of times, to me, when I have, there are so many amazing amateur astronomers out there, and that stuff does look like a sphere, but I'm going to advise you that you look, or you got to contact me, because this information is just not findable on Google anymore. I feel so bad for people that didn't get into this in like 2015 before they changed all the algorithms, but I will link anybody who contacts me to the Is It a Sphere video, so you can see how easy it is to be deceived by your vision when it comes to the luminaries in the sky.
You got it. And thanks for your question. This one comes in from a statement from Tioga, says, if there's no gravity, how come there are waves? I think they mean, she means like waves in the ocean, like the tides.
Like the tides? I'm not sure. That one, I do not know what causes the tides. I would be totally crazy to say that I knew what was causing that.
Gotcha. And Andrew Handelsman, good to see you, says, Rose, how do you feel about vaccines?
Oh, I think that they are totally dangerous. And I think that anyone who takes a vaccine is making a terrible, terrible mistake. I do not accept that heavy metals belong in our body. I have direct experience with people that were obviously injured right from the get-go. I think that there is a terrible, terrible thing coming. And I really would want to advise that everybody stay as far away from the beer bug vaccine if they can. I mean, I know that some people are going to be forced to. If I had a job that was requiring me to take that vaccine, I absolutely 100% would not take it. And also, just, I can't prove how I had my stroke in 2005, but I did have the like the Gardasil vaccine before I had a stroke in my spinal cord. So that's just something to throw out there. I was also on birth control too. So like I said, I'm not going to say that it was because of the Gardasil vaccine, but I just don't think that these chemicals belong in a human body. I think that our immune system is there for a reason, and that it will work as long as we get the right nutrients. I want everyone to, if you really care about your health, focus on the foods that you're eating, and, you know, be good to yourself. Don't put poisons in your body. I don't want people to have a human diploid cells injected into them, monkey kidney cells, all of these heavy metals, not good. That's how I feel.
Maybe we've never debated that topic.
Oh, let me compare. Whoa. Compare how much heavy metals is in those vaccines you're talking about compared to breast milk. and look up the smallpox. Look that up before we had a vaccine for that, or
Perhaps. Just forgive me, but
many.
just because you have so many questions,
Okay, go ahead.
if you guys want to come back, we'd be
Oh, I'd
thrilled to
love
host
to.
you on that topic.
I would love
And
to.
then the channel will get deleted. But
I would love to.
Ranger Man 9404, thanks for your question. Said, so Rose, how is it that we predict solar eclipses based on the knowing the moon's orbit and orbital mechanics in general?
I don't think that that's how we predict them. I do not accept that that's how we predict them. I think it's because they always happen on a cycle. And for so many millennia, this information has been passed down. And so what we're doing is we're recognizing a pattern, and that's how we're able to predict it.
Gotcha. And Mike Billars, thanks for your question, said, Rose, why does moving south every 69 miles decrease Polaris elevation by 1 degree everywhere in the northern hemisphere? How would this work on a flat Earth?
I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm going to have to watch this whole segment after this and do my own research on this. I am so excited. Just so you guys know, I didn't even say this in the beginning, but in November of 2019, I was going to a flat Earth conference because my boyfriend was doing a presentation on social engineering. And I was so embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't want to go. I only became a flat earther after that. I didn't even talk to anyone at that conference. I just went to my boyfriend's presentation, and that is all I went to. I didn't want to have anything to do with this. I am a brand. You are looking at someone who was I just got my eyes open to this stuff. I finally started accepting that the earth was misdescribed and started doing my own research. So doing this is part of that research process and part of my exploration. I'm brand new baby, not even 1 year.
You got it. And Red Cosmos Devil, thanks for your question, says, what causes, well, we already covered this first one, and they said, so it's basically the question about the tides of, namely, why are they synchronized with the position of the sun and moon? Why can't you see, I know that you've already addressed the tides, so don't worry, we will jump to their second part, which is, why can't you see Polaris from the southern hemisphere?
I just don't know. I don't know. I don't have an accurate model of this earth. All I know is that we have been lied to. And you know what? Gosh, I wish I had this pulled up, but go ahead and look up a quote about the tides by the guy who, oh man, the people that discovered, you know what? I'm not even going to try and go on. I'm not going to pull this from memory. Never mind about the tides. I just need to incorporate that into my knowledge base for next time.
Gotcha. And Stupid Hort Energy strikes again. She is at it tonight. She says, what is Rose's take on the Cavendish experiment?
I'm not familiar with that experiment. Ooh, I'm getting lots of emails from your audience.
Gotcha. That's good. And Apocalypse here, I hope they're friendly. Apocalypse here says, why does Rose think we've been lied to? To make that claim, you'd have to have some sort of rationale. And what's the reason or reasons for the lying?
I think I know I've already touched on this. I don't want to keep repeating myself about, dumbing us down and lying to us it's the death of the imagination, so that the potential for our freedom is limited, and to separate us from our divine creation. Now, I'm not a religious person, Mark, just so you know, but I don't accept the creation of the universe was a result of the Big Bang. I do think that there is something divine out there, and there's some kind of thing that created this place. I don't know what the purpose is, but when you believe that you're on a spinning ball going through the vacuum of space, and that there can be little green aliens out there that are trying to come down here to anally probe us, it can give you a very different perspective on the reality that you live in, and what you're capable of thinking of. Think about it. Think about the different ways that we can speak in different languages, like English, or maybe a Latin language like Spanish, where they even give like gender to different words, or Dutch, like from a Germanic or Scandinavian region. There are different ways of thinking in all of these locations. It's the limitation of a language by itself that can cause that. And so our understanding of the reality that we're living affects on our ability to think and our ability to explore. Because if you think that you know that you're just in this one system and you're not going to be able to search it, if you just simply accept what's told to you, then it stops people from exploring. And what I want to do is I want to make all of us into brand new explorers.
Just so I remember, you do think aliens do the butt probes or they don't?
I don't believe in aliens. I was trying to make a joke.
Okay,
I just want to make
gotcha.
that clear. I don't believe in aliens. I think there's a hard, fast barrier. I think
Gotcha.
that maybe there could be like other terrestrial beings, or maybe there's some kind of spiritual entity thing going on. And that's why I always make that joke, because there are people that say that they were abducted, and it
Mark.
does really seem like they believe that they were abducted for sure. So and that I'm more likely to believe that like a demon would be responsible for doing all that sexual weird stuff to them than like a really intelligent being that's coming from space. And even if you want to do a thought experiment that there was an intelligent being coming from space, they would be so much more advanced than us that I'm going to go with the whole Mars attack thing, where if we come in peace, boom, 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 like wipe the petri dish team. You guys, the petri dish needs to be wiped. You guys are still at war. You guys haven't discovered free energy. Screw you guys. That's what I think they would think, but they don't exist. So
fascinating. Oh, right. Well, thanks for that. And appreciate your question from Apocalypse here. Says, Rose, or why does Rose think we've... Oh, we got that already. Sorry. That's very embarrassing. Rachel, New York Truth, thanks for your question statement. Said, if Rose were a men's health magazine, then Mark would pay more attention.
hey,
Oh,
I'm happy. As you know, James, I'm happily married.
he is. I thought that they just meant you like to work out, but now I just figured out what
No
they
idea
meant.
what she's talking about there.
Yes, Tammy, his wife, is a tremendous lady. So no, he does not look at men's health for any purpose other than getting jacked. Next,
There you
Rachel,
go.
New York Truth, says Tesla in space is not fake though.
wait, what?
I
No,
don't
yes,
know
it is. Yes, if you think that there's a car out in space,
Gotcha.
don't panic.
And
More research.
next, thank you for your question from Mike Billars. Says, Rose, can you explain your moonlight colder experiment? When you explain it, Mark, please explain to her why a shade would capture radiation.
Okay, this is what we need to do, because I'm embarrassed by the tools. A regular thermometer, a cooking thermometer is probably not. We need to redo this experiment together, Mark. We already went over that of how we need to do this together, and we need to make sure that we measure and make sure that we're using the right instruments, because mine probably sucked, and that's why I want to redo it.
Gosh.
So you actually tried that?
I used a thermometer, and it was like a cooking meat thermometer. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
see,
you're
I can see
yeah,
the thing. I got
yeah.
really excited. I heard people talking about it, and I didn't go out of my way to get the correct instruments. I just heard about this experiment. I recreated it in an incorrect way. So
Yeah, you're gonna have to get it something very, very accurate. I think you understood though. But you're honestly the first person that's ever admitted when they get something wrong. You know,
yeah,
that's
that was
huge.
wrong with me. I
That
think I
really
made a
is.
mistake for bringing that up. And I brought it up because I was genuinely curious about what Mark thought of that. I don't think he ever
Yeah.
heard of that before, ever. I would
No.
love for you to just do some searching on it, because aren't you
Yeah.
curious too? So I think that you're going to look into it afterwards, and we're going to stay in touch, and we're going to redo this
Yep.
experiment. That's why I said that. And right when we brought this up and you responded, I'm like, you know what? I said I did this experiment, but I need to like redo it with the correct instrumentation that was used by the other people that did those experiments.
Gotcha. And Rachel, New York Truth, just sent in a recent super chat relative to that men's health super chat. Says, Rose, you know I'm kidding, haha. So she does not think you prefer the company of men, Mark. Okay, now it's maximally awkward. So next, iPhone Usings, thanks for your support. Thanks for your question from, let's see. This one comes in from our dearest friend. Oh, gosh. 1 second. Sorry, folks. I've got a glitch here. We're gonna make it, folks. Give me 2 seconds.
I'm gonna look up the explanation for the moon thing, because might as well.
And this one comes in from Rachel New York Truth says, obviously, Mark believes in that Rona is real too. Mark,
Rona,
is this true that you believe the Rona?
Rona is in the.
You know exactly what they're talking
Yeah,
about.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. I obviously believe that.
We just had that debate last night, and actually, by the way, so it was interesting, folks. At first, Oliver Yanni, he argued that the numbers were exaggerated, and then he went full throttle and said, it's not even real. So the numbers were really exaggerated in that case. But next, thanks to your question, this one comes in from Rachel New York Truth says, buy a NASA lover mask and save lives. Mark?
Don't wear a mask, people. That's so retarded. You're perpetuating the dumbing down of humanity. Please don't be a slave.
Wait, all right, we can't go into this unless it's a debate on it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, let's come back.
Yeah, I'll debate you on that too.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Mark, let's do this. Germ
Okay.
theory debate. Let's do it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's actually, we could do that. That'd actually be an interesting debate. I think people would enjoy it. Next, let's see. Spart344, thanks for your question, said, for Rose, where and how do you do your research, and why is it that you believe those sources over those with a science degree?
I don't like to believe authority sources. I like to do my own personal observations. Like I said, I zoomed in on the roof of the Superdome at Lake Pontchartrain, which was 33.5 miles away, or I can just be really nice about it and say, what if it was on the beach of the edge of the Lake Pontchartrain Lake? So we're on the level water. Water always finds this level under any circumstance. Like, for example, if you take some bottles and you move them in like different directions and you pour different amounts of water in them, the water always stays the same level spot. There are all these homemade cool experiments that you can do to challenge the mainstream narrative. And that's what I really like to do the most. And I like to talk to people that I know personally and have them explain to me how they came to their conclusions. And I think that we should all be poking holes in each other's explanations, just like we're doing tonight. Look, I'm not offended by getting something wrong. I'm not triggered by not knowing the answer to certain questions. This is only helping me. And, before I went into this debate, I just told myself what doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
You got it. Thank you. And appreciate your question from Mike Billar. Said, no, she just needs to not use a big umbrella as her shade from the moon. I'm confused by that. I know that let me go back to his last question. His last question was, can you explain your moonlight colder experiment? And when you explain it, so that was what he was referring to.
Yeah, I'm looking up here. It's really easy if you just Google the moon. Wait, you already read that before, and I said that.
Yeah.
So the moonlight reducing temperature, just Google it, people, and see that this is a repeatable experiment that a lot of people have done. The one I'm looking at right now, like the first one that came up, obviously was Quora, and so it's very limited. But like, why is moonlight cold? Why does moonlight seem to be colder than shade? There are a lot of people that are questioning this and talking about this. And so, like I said, if you use the same thermometer and you just move it in different locations and switch it, you can see that it's actually colder under the moonlight. It's trippy. I don't know how to explain it.
Gotcha. And thank you for your question as well from Thy Messenger. First, it's like I'm trying to, maybe first time question. Said the Bible describes the flat earth as we are discovering it. The Old Testament prophesies Jesus is the Son of God. The New Testament, Jesus explains life is about love and relationships, and it's a test. So I think they're giving their explanation for what they think the meaning of life is, maybe. I'm not sure. But you're not, if I understand right, neither of you are Christians.
Yeah, no, I definitely do not ascribe to any kind of organized religion whatsoever. So I'm sorry, as you were reading that, I just assumed it was a question for Mark. Could you repeat that one more time?
It's like, I mean, I guess it's not super pertinent to our topic, but they said the Bible describes the earth as flat, and the Old Testament prophesies that Jesus was the Son of God, and the New Testament, Jesus explains life is about love and relationships, and that it's a test.
Yeah, that's Jesus. The person described the dude in the Bible, super cool dude, totally agree with the principles that he talked about. Love is so important, but also there is a sacred gift of anger when we get mad at the people that have deceived us so much and put us into this dumbed down state where we're trying to actually understand the place that we live and try to get to the bottom of things like that. But you know what? There is like 200 Bible verses that talk about a flat and stationary plane with a firmament. But I didn't bring that up personally because I want to stick to my own personal observations and things that I can test, like not finding any curvature and not being able to measure axial rotation.
Gotcha. And this one comes in from Squeeze. Says, the law, in all caps, of thermodynamics states atmospheric pressure cannot live near a vacuum without a container. Gravity is your answer. It cannot be proven or replicated. Explain.
Yeah, it is. The gravity. That's it. The gas made up of molecules, made up of something
I think this
with mass.
I could be
Well,
wrong.
it's impossible to have pressurized gas without a container. If you think about even the word pressure, it's talking about pressure against that wall. You're pressing against the wall of a container. And when I was in high school, I totally thought that I was stupid and that I just didn't get it. And I was afraid to ask questions because the teacher made me look really silly when I asked, how come in there you can have an atmosphere and it goes from a lot of molecules to a little bit, and then all of a sudden it just becomes nothing. And it always really, really bothered me. And so that's why I love discussing how the heliocentric model, it goes against the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy, and that gas is always going to go to fill a container. And so you're saying your answer to that is just what an authority figure told you, is that there's this magical variable called gravity that's causing it. And I don't think that's related to the downward force that we can observe with buoyancy and density.
No, absolutely not. And there is no sharp cutoff to these particles that you're talking about. So no, gravity explains it perfectly. You're misunderstanding what a vacuum is to start with, and you're also misunderstanding what a pressure is. So all that we're dealing with is one atmosphere of pressure, and it's exactly what we'd expect. So yes, if you were to take the Earth away, just do away with the Earth, get rid of it, then all that gas would collapse down still to a central point. You don't even need the Earth to hold our atmosphere. Now, would it take off and go away? Yes, because again, we wouldn't have the ability to protect it from the solar winds. But yes, the weight that you're talking about, or the pressure, is a direct consequence of gravity pulling it down. So I'm not sure what makes people think that you have a pressure in a vacuum. It's not at all. You're completely misunderstanding. This whole container idea is wrong.
Gotcha. And this question comes in from Spart344. Says, for Rose, I'll meet you halfway. Don't believe a person because of the degree, but please do at the very least learn how to set up experiments properly. It sounds like they're challenging your experimental methods.
I want them to challenge me. I deserve to be challenged. I need to be challenged, and I'm going to get better. Like I said, I'm just a baby, and I'm just trying to put on my diapers and grow up.
Thank you very much. And next question, this one comes in from Mike Billars. Says, Rose,
Sorry,
thanks.
I said take off the diapers. I didn't mean put on the diapers. I don't want to be a baby. Whoopsie.
Says, Rose, thank you for being you. That's nice. You have they appreciate your personality. And Tim Pryor, thank you for your question. Said, yeah, but the pool table and pool balls are man-made, not naturally made. Not a good argument.
All right, touche. I should have used another example that we can find in nature. Like, just because I'm seeing a bunch of trees doesn't mean the ground is a tree. Or what about this? Just because I'm looking down at my boobs doesn't mean my eyes are nipples.
Touche. And Spike Smith, thank you for your question. Says, Rose, what are your qualifications to establish credibility for your analysis of the observations discussed here? And what is your training? So they're asking about your background in this.
The worst possible thing that you can do is just believe me. What you need to be doing is your own personal research and your own personal observation. I am just a girl with a questioning mind who's just looking into everything and just trying to explore. And I just do not accept the things that have not been proven to me. I want to put the onus on those making positive claims to prove what they are claiming. And until then, I really don't think that it causes anyone harm to not accept something. So I'm not going to accept gravity. I'm not going to accept that curvature has been proven to me. I'm not going to accept that we are living on a spinning ball. I am going to be in a state of not accepting something until it can be absolutely proven to me. That is a spiritual and philosophical exercise that I am on. And I really encourage other people to join me, because I believe that it is the path to freedom to truly question absolutely everything. And whatever I'm sharing with you tonight, all I want to do is inspire you to question things for yourself. And if you just blindly believe what I'm saying, you're making the same mistake by believing whatever Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying, or you're, a teacher, and the higher the education, the higher the indoctrination. There's a lot of good people out there that have been deceived, and I'm even aiming to say that there are a lot of doctors and nurses out there. Not to go off topic, but I mean the whole entire system has been deceived, and it's not helping us one bit. So we need to be questioning everything, not just astronomy, but also the allopathic medicine model.
Until you start denying vaccines, then millions of people die.
I'm going to challenge you to that. I don't think that's the case. I think that if everybody rejected the vaccine, we would be in a much better, healthier position.
Well, we have 100 years ago to go by, so we actually have that experiment's already been done.
Gotcha. And thanks for your, let's see, I think that was that question originally for, it was originally for Rose. I'll give you the last word, Rose.
Oh, I'm sorry. What question was it?
Oh, it was about your challenging your background, your training in the area. So if you want to respond to Mark, though, you can.
If you're curious to know, when I was 17, I was a rebellious teenager. I've always had a problem with authority. So I was sent away to a bad girl boot camp. And then from there, I started going to the University of Montana, and then I got kicked out of the bad girl boot camp halfway house thingy afterwards. So I ended up back in Santa Barbara, and I decided to go to Santa Barbara City College, and I just kept changing my mind. I did the general education requirements, and I kept changing my mind about what I wanted to explore. And then I got sick of that. I wanted to make money. I went into the corporate world, and I was working for Citrix Online for a number of years. And then I realized that there was more for me than being the training manager of tech support and customer service. So I went back to school some more and studied more topics. And so I guess you can call me a Renaissance woman, jack of all trades, master of none. But, I'm really loving the whole flat earth topic. I am loving it so much. I really do want to become a master at, researching this. So I think I have found my path. I think that this is what I really want to start looking into more and more and more, so that I can be better at these discussions.
You got it.
And understanding the nature of reality is the main goal, but it's also fun to have these conversations and know what people are referring to and stuff.
Thanks so much. And Logan Cook, thanks for your question, said, for Mark, is the moon inside Earth's atmosphere? If so, at what distance is the farthest I should know this. Lagrange point of Earth's atmosphere? Yeah. I know I should know how to pronounce this by now, but
no, the moon is not within Earth's atmosphere at all.
Actually,
no.
NASA just even started admitting that the moon was in Earth's atmosphere. I've seen mainstream articles that are actually saying that. If you type into Google right now, is the moon within our atmosphere, you're going to find mainstream articles that are starting to do that. So I think this is the backtracking and trying to make up for stuff that people can now start looking into that they're not going to be able to prove anymore. Like the fact,
like I said, though, there is no direct cutoff of our atmosphere. So, everybody likes to think that you get to a certain point and you're in outer space. That's just not the case. Our atmosphere becomes less and less dense, less and less particles, like Rose calls them. No, and as far as the height, I don't remember. There's a lot of numbers I don't keep in my head. As where we consider Earth's atmosphere to end.
Next up, Mike Billars, thanks for your question, said, Mark, it's called, these are always hard for me, spectroscopy?
Yes, yeah.
Next.
Yeah, I asked somebody to let me know what the science is called. That's correct. That's what it is, and we can know so much from it.
Next, Mike Billars challenging you, Rose. You ooze authenticity, Rose. I have to say it. However, Mike is a skeptic of you. He says, Rose, I think you're pretending to believe in flat Earth, plugging your channel. Let's see, and yeah, basically, I don't think she plugged her channel at all. To be fair, I think it was
I'm gonna
just
use
me.
reverse psychology
But
on everyone. Don't go to my channel. Don't. Whatever you do, don't go there. You don't want to see what's on my channel.
touche. Also, what is it? So both of the speakers' links are in the description. I've been plugging them, that's for sure, and we want to let you know that you can check those links out below. That's actually how I found Rose. I was like browsing one day on like flat Earth debates, and I saw Rose and DITRH. Is it Dave?
Yeah. Down in the rabbit hole. Down into the rabbit hole.
Down in the rabbit hole. Okay.
All right.
So is it? Do I remember? Okay, maybe I don't know if he wants his real name out there, but long
Yeah,
story.
David Weiss. Oh, he
Dave.
wants his name out there.
Okay,
David.
so I saw you and Dave talking with a friend of yours about flat Earth, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And so I was like, that. Then anyway, so no, I've gotten to see both of their channels.
One.
She's. Go ahead.
I haven't heard from Drea. She said she was going to come back and prove to me that we live on a spinning ball. So if anybody wants to come and, have a conversation with Dave and I, that would be awesome. I love doing those videos where I just have an open conversation with anybody who wants to challenge us. I love being challenged. It's the way to grow and it's the way to learn.
You have a courageous spirit. I appreciate that. And this one comes in from down in the rabbit hole. It says, how does a plane take off from northern Alaska and land on a north-south runway on the equator that is moving 1,038 miles per hour sideways? I think that's for you, Mark.
Moving relative to what? Are they under the impression that Earth's atmosphere doesn't turn with? Do they not know about oh my God, what does he think? That if you jump up off the Earth, all of a sudden the Earth skips out from under you at 1,000 miles an hour? Like, come on, man. I don't even understand what they're asking. Earth's atmosphere moves with the Earth just like we would expect it to. Exactly what we'd expect it to. If there was a frictionless environment past Earth's atmosphere, there's nothing exerting drag on Earth's atmosphere out at the point of where we do start to get into outer space. I'm not sure what they're asking there. Gotcha. Maybe someone else could help me out.
Well, there's two things that I want to bring up about the planes. There's something that we didn't get into in the debate, which is that when pilots are taught how to fly, they are never told to account for curvature. They're told to assume that we're on a flat plane. And so they never dip their nose down whatsoever in order to account for curvature, which I think is totally trippy. And then here's another thing that I really want. I don't know if, do you give James permission to give me your email? Because I want to show you some emergency flight path landings. And for anyone in chat looking at this, you've got to look at this. The emergency flight paths, if you look at them on a globe model, it makes no sense that they go all the way out of their way. Like if someone's going on their way to India, like if there was a time when someone like went into a coma on the plane and they went out of their way to go land in like Moscow. I have all these examples on my screen. I wish I could have shown my screen tonight, but when you put it on a flat Earth model, it makes perfect sense. It's a straight line, Mark. I can't wait to show you these pictures. It's going to blow your mind. And also when we look at the jet stream, this is another thing from school that I always thought, why does the jet stream go like this? It's not that I didn't want to accept it. I just thought it looked weird. But what really blew my mind is that when you put it on a flat Earth model, the jet stream is going around in a circle and it looks so beautiful and perfect. And it just makes more sense for me. Not proof of anything. I just want you to look at these things and tell me what you think.
Just to try to fill out some of the extra info for Down in the Rabbit Hole's last question, he said in the chat, the runway in Alaska is spinning at 400 miles per hour. How does this plane speed up to 1,038 miles per hour at the equator?
It doesn't. I can't even imagine. Where I am right now, it's 11:15. This is way beyond me trying to figure out what he's talking about. Why would you have to speed up?
Gotcha. Perhaps on another night. I do want to run through.
So is he under the impression that when you get in your car in Alaska to get down to the equator, I need to speed up over 1,000 miles an hour? I can't even understand what he's talking about.
It's new to me as well, but we will jump to as many questions as we can get from everyone else as well. Macedonian Truth says, Rose, I love you, and Earth is so flat.
Right on, Macedonian Truth.
Tim Pryor says, you guys really need to learn a difference between gas pressure and atmospheric pressure. Nowhere in the second law of thermodynamics does it say you can't have atmospheric pressure next to space.
Exactly.
Well, they don't make that specific claim, but if you're going to follow along with that law, then you need, in order to have that kind of pressure, that's the meaning of pressure. I think this applies to atmospheric pressure as well.
No, it doesn't. That's the thing.
Well, not according to your model. According to your model, it doesn't, because you have gravity. So that's why we kind of get into the standstill.
But that's what I talked about with you right at the very beginning. Is the first thing you got to explain is gravity. You've got to come up with this power of attraction, and there's only two ways that we can get it, either through acceleration or gravity's real, and you got to decide which one you're going to go with. But either one would still not make any difference for your pressure model that you say cannot exist. Even if we are on a flat plane and we're accelerating upwards, it's still exactly what we'd expect to happen. You would still have a pressure in a vacuum above you. You're misunderstanding what a vacuum is, and you're misunderstanding what the pressure is.
I've got to give Rose the last word on this, and then we've got a follow-up question.
All right, so I'm challenging you to prove that gravity exists as it's described by the heliocentric model, and you're challenging me to come up with another explanation for the cause of downward force. Challenge accepted. I will work on it.
Tim Pryor, thanks for your question, said, check out Greater Sapiens' channel. He explains those emergency landings, and a tree will always look like a tree. A dog laws look like a dog, and planets will always look like a planet.
Yeah, but I can prove that a tree is a tree, and I can prove a dog is a dog, but I can't prove to you right now what exactly the planets are. I know what they look like to me, but I do not accept the authoritative mainstream narrative of what it is. And like I said, for this specific question, I really would love for you to contact me so I can link you to Is It a Sphere? The video will demonstrate how something can look a certain way, but it actually isn't that way. The owls are not as they seem.
And thanks for your question. This one comes in from Holly Berry. Says, why have stars not moved in thousands of years if we are flying through space at 1.3 million miles per hour?
They have moved. They have absolutely moved. They know exactly what Stonehenge was supposed to line up with through the observation holes. So yeah, they have moved. Everything is progressing. So I'm not sure, there again, they just do not understand what they're asking. And I think they expect stuff that's tens of thousands of light years. It's quite the distance. If you work it out, the angle of change that you would expect, it's exactly what we see. And no, things do not line up the way they used to line up. That's just wrong.
Gotcha. Next, Uzi, thanks for your question, says globe Earth equals truth, in parentheses, editable, flat Earth equals reality, like it or not. Okay, next up. Only sheeple can't see. Thanks for your question. Says Rose, what do you think about Bob proving a 15 per hour drift? The same equipment used in modern commercial jets. It is accurate and precise.
Okay, well, that is exactly what I was referring to. The 15% of the 15-degree drift is not as a result of the spin. It's a result of the luminiferous ether. And the way that we can prove that is because you can go to the same exact latitude to a high elevation and a low elevation. Even in the experiment that I'm talking about that Bob did was 10,000 feet difference, and they got two different measurements. They got two different results over 1 degree. That's impossible on the heliocentric model. And so it is impossible, not acceptable to attribute that 15-degree drift to the spin of the Earth. But what it can explain, what's a possibility that it can explain it, of course, I'm not proving it, but the vortex speed of the luminiferous ether that's going around, that's what I think it's picking up on.
Gotcha.
And jets fly at what, 35,000 feet? So you've got 3.5 times the air that you're calling for when a jet is up there at 35,000 feet. So you'd think navigation would almost become impossible, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
Next, this question comes in from Tim Pryor. Follow up to his others. He had mentioned the idea of like gas pressure and atmospheric pressure. Said there are different definitions of pressure. I'm just saying to learn them.
Yes, you are correct.
Gotcha.
Hell yes. I want to know exactly the specific definitions and all of the stuff that the heliocentric model is describing and all of the different laws of physics. I was never an expert at physics. Right now, I'm going off a lot of this is common sense and the heart, but I'm not going to use that here in my debate. I want to use like personal observation and different specific measurements that I've done with my optics and what I've discovered and that we've been lied to. The fact that water always finds its level and that we don't see any bulges on this pear earth as Neil deGrasse Tyson describes it. I think that we've been lied to about so much. And I'm, like I said, I'm in the beginning of this, and thank you for challenging me. I have to learn all of these definitions of things.
You got it. And this one comes in from RangerMan9404, says Jiren's experiment was, quote, interesting, unquote, via Rose. I think they're saying that they're trying to insinuate that you're skeptical of Jiren's experiment. I'm not sure, though.
I'm not skeptical of Jiren's experiment. I just don't know which way. Now, the interesting thing, I think, was what he said on the Behind the Curve documentary, where they totally took what happened. That was a total shit show with that movie. Things were not as described. They took what he said out of context and Franken edited that whole thing. And the gyroscope experiment that I just described to you explains how that was not measuring the spin of the Earth.
Gotcha.
That is what I'm addressing with the gyroscope experiment.
You got it. And thanks for your question. This one comes in from our friend Only Sheeple Can't See. Says, Mark, do you feel any evidence was presented in any way, shape, or form in today's debate from the flat earth side?
She's very passionate and she is a smart girl. So, you know, we're all here to learn. Do I think there was anything? No, unfortunately.
The moon doesn't have anything to do with an eclipse.
I'm sorry, Rose. You didn't teach me anything tonight. I'm not any more convinced than I know you're hurt.
No, I'm not hurt. No, I'm not hurt. I'm just excited to, be on this path and to get to know you better. So you don't believe me when I tell you that the moon cannot be detected as it goes into a solar eclipse? You've got to promise me that you'll get a telescope and that you'll try to focus on the next solar eclipse. And when you don't see the moon approaching it, it's going to open your eyes and you're going to be mind boggled.
Okay. All I can say is if you've got the sun, if you've got the sun behind the moon, why would you expect the brightness of the sun to overpower the sun?
It's not overpowering the sun. It's the sun that should be backlighting the moon. It's this massively bright, the brightest thing that we're aware of in the world, right behind the moon. We should be able to detect it. It doesn't make any sense that all we see is just this cutout. We can't prove that that's the moon that's making that little bite into it. I mean, there's a lot of ancient cultures that have explained it in their own way, but I'm not going to go off of what the ancient cultures are saying. I want to challenge us all to try and figure out what is actually occurring in reality right now.
Well, I'll bet you a drink if we ever meet up and I come down into your area, because my wife and I drive down a lot down there. Oh, that cool. I bet you that there is a way that we can see that moon. I bet you we do have equipment that we could block out the light from the sun and see the moon. I would bet anything on that.
I would love to talk to you like with your wife and my boyfriend, and we'll get together and go to the French Quarter together, have some
perfect.
And a dinosaur adventure land. Kent Hovind wants to see you guys. Okay, so
Give
next
me a break, James.
Spartan344 says, Modern day. So, question for Mark: why didn't you use Kepler's law of planetary motion for distance from the sun? I chastise thee in the strongest terms.
No, I understand, but we really haven't talked about a lot of this stuff. We're at a very basic level here of trying to explain what we're seeing, and for Rose, she's questioning what she sees, and as humans, there's nothing wrong with that. I just question, where she's getting this information. I am hearing her repeating a lot of things that she's been told. So, whether she admits it or not, I've heard her say a lot of names of different websites that she's been on and different people that she's been dealing with. And I think she's getting a lot of her information from there. So I hope she practices what she preaches, and don't believe what everybody tells you. If you're going to start hanging around flat earthers, it's not going to take long for you to start believing everything they have to say. That's how a church works.
Right, but the people that I'm trusting with is when they're giving me repeatable experiments that can be demonstrated. And so if you can show me a repeatable experiment that can be demonstrated to prove curvature and to prove the spinning of the earth, then I'm going to accept that. But until I get that, I'm going to
thousands of them, Rose. There's tens of thousands of them.
Send me that information, and I'm going to look into it, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. And we're going to talk about it in private over a drink. Like, I seriously do want to be friends with you forever.
Thank you.
He's not so bad, really, I promise. Okay, Macedonian Truth, thanks for your question, says, anyone who takes a vax for fake Vivid is dumb. So we might have to host that topic sometime soon, folks. I don't know. That's like edgy even for us. Do you folks in the live chat, would that get us a strike, or do you think we'd be okay? I don't know.
We try to speak in code, like say things like beer bug and say things like pointy sticks.
I don't know if I want to know what that all means. All right, next up, Fractal Escape. I'm just teasing. Fractal Escape, thanks for your question. So yeah, we may host that. We'll see what people think. I think it's we have a list of like topics people have been suggesting. Fractal Escape says, since Mark knows so much about heliocentricity, can he explain what the heliosphere is?
Well, no, I don't even know what this guy's talking about right now.
Next up, Macedonian Truth, thanks for your super chat, said, if you take a vax, aren't you immune from those who don't take one? Mark?
If you take a vaccine, are you immune from those who don't take one? Yes. That's what herd immunity is. Again, all we need to do is look back 100, 125 years, not even, to see what would happen if we didn't take vaccines. Like it was a brutal way of living, and we have pictures. We've seen how many millions of people died, and again, look at the amount of heavy metals that are in vaccines and compare it to what's in breast milk.
Gotcha.
But what do you think is causing breast milk to have those things? I think that there's a lot of toxic things that are put into our
absolutely environment. A lot of the stuff that we are producing and putting into our environment are cumulative. We cannot break them down in our system. We have no way of filtering them. And it's brutal. It's getting into our water. It's getting into the earth. It's getting into everything that we do. And eventually it's going to get into our food supply, and you are what you eat.
That's what's killing us, not a little invisible monster boogeyman.
Well, back in the day, they sure did.
History is agreed upon.
Next up, Rachel New York Truth says, Rose, I already read that. Then your friendly flight attendant, thank you, says, Rose, great debut. Would you call the heavens a sky clock?
Yes, I would. That's a term coined by Crow, the host of Crow 777 Radio. Check it out.
Gotcha. And Tim Pryor, thanks for your question, says, so why does the high pressure at sea levels not rush into the low pressure at the top of mountains? No container between those two.
Gravity.
I think it was supposed to be a challenge for Rose. They said
no. I think that was me. If there's no container, he'll have to, but it's exactly what we'd expect. The reason that you have higher pressure at the equator or down at sea level, sorry, is because that's how gravity works. It's going to pull the mass down, and it's all going to layer its way out exactly what we see.
Gotcha.
Unless you think that was for Rose, I'm not sure.
Gotcha. And Tim Pryor says, if the Tesla car isn't really in space, then how can people observe it with a telescope and track it?
Oh, no, no, no. When
Mm-hmm.
they maybe can observe a light or maybe some kind of little black thing, but they're not zooming in on the car. I haven't seen any amateur footage of someone zooming in with a telescope on the car from the surface.
Gotcha.
There's no way that we're zooming in on a Tesla car. I would really challenge you to get a telescope and do that yourself.
Gotcha. And
I don't know whatsoever.
thanks for your question. This one is from John Rapp, who says, water tastes flat. Trust your senses. Next, this one comes in from, we just had a new, a few just come in the last second. Thanks for your patience, guys. There's a lot of questions, but it's because the people love, like, there's been tons of positive feedback. So I hope you guys know you guys have been rock stars. People have really enjoyed this. And so there's a lot of engagement. Red Cosmos Devil asks, Rose, why can't hurricanes never form at the equator? And please try to answer it. If not, look it up and learn about it. Your passion is wasted in flat Earth. What a critic.
You know, I'm going to look into that. I am so curious about hurricanes and the nature of your question. And you know what? I will say that one of my favorite dudes on YouTube is Dutchsons, and because I watched him predict an earthquake once, and he's so good at everyone should look it up, Dutch and then SINSE, and he does like use what he's looking at on there when he's measuring things. It looks like a globe, but what I'm assuming from that is that all of this data is being compiled onto a globe. And so what I would love to see is a flat earther come up with an equal model for him so that he can use that so that on his screen he has the flat earth plane so that he can predict the weather and all that stuff using that. You got it. Compiling data. You know what I meant. Good. I'm glad you knew what I meant.
You betcha. And this one comes in from Spart344. Thanks for your support, Spart. Longtime supporter. Along with Sigifredo Sarabia. It's been here a long time too. But anyway, thank you all. It says, for Rose, but those of us in the STEM fields are doing that. I think they're saying, like, testing the ideas. We know how to set up those experiments. Those flat earthers don't.
Well, I would like to know what they think of me being able to see too far. How would you respond? I really want to know what these amateur scientists are doing out there. The people that are getting different results than me, I want to know your results. When you take out high optics equipment and you zoom in on things that defy your specific model, where you're seeing things hundreds and hundreds when they should be hidden by hundreds of miles. And if you are a true scientist, then you need to accept the fact that refraction doesn't work the way that you guys are using it to explain. Light doesn't bend in a curve like that. It will go like, but not like that.
Gotcha. And thank you for Jersey Bob for your support. Appreciate your goal sticker. Appreciate that. It means a lot. Folks, we're excited about the future. I have to let you know, we've got some big stuff coming up in addition to tonight. Tonight was epic for sure, and we're planning on other epic events. Want to give you one taste of it. You guys, I am thrilled. I've read a number of Bart Ehrman's books. We are in talks right now. It's like pretty much confirmed that Bart Ehrman will be here. It'll be a debate on the reliability of the Bible. So that will be super interesting this November. So like high profile, tough debater, high profile scholar. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Tim Pryor, thanks for your super chat, said, I'm an amateur astronomer. I have a telescope. I did do that. They're coming at you, Rose.
Oh my God, you got to send me the pictures, dude. Thank you. That will be great. I would love to see that. Let's be friends. I want to know as many astronomers as possible.
Gotcha. And so You can easily find our guest info by just looking in the description box, folks. What are you waiting for? So if you'd like to hear more from either Rose or Mark or both, you can by clicking on those links down below. I want to say thanks so much to our mods, as we always ask that there would be no hate speech, and so we appreciate you mods always trying to get rid of that. We don't want any groups being treated poorly merely as a result of just being a member of their group. So we also want to say thanks so much to you, the audience, for your questions, for your engaging, and just hanging out with us here. We really appreciate it. And by the way, folks, if anybody's waiting on an email response, it's so hard for me, and I seriously hope you can forgive me. I try to answer everything, but right now it's like with everything going right now with the semester starting up, it's like insane. And so I'm trying to, but thanks so much for all your support. And thanks most of all, thank you so much, Rose and Mark, for being here. We really appreciate you guys. People really love this tonight. So we appreciate your just coming on and debating.
Thank you, James, and thank you for not making me sit here and try to explain planetary motion at 11:45 at night my time. Some of these questions, what do you want me to say? Look it up on the internet. Don't sit here and ask me questions and have me try to explain something that's going to take a half an hour.
Mark.
But Rose, you were awesome. If this was your first debate, you did absolutely great.
Oh, thank you so much. I wanted to show you. I didn't want to show off on the air, but I have the Live After Death Eddie tattooed on my back.
Look at that. You are an Iron Maiden fan.
Yeah, and I can't show you my butt, but I have the Killers tattoo. So I've got the Killers
wow.
After Death Eddie.
That's awesome. And that's the pointy stick. I play drums. That's why I knew that was, as soon as you put on the jacket, I recognized the actual jacket you put on there.
I didn't know you played drums.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. That is so cool. Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with us. And with that, we hope, folks, you have a great night or day, depending on where you are watching from. And
you're still live.
Oh, wait, I forgot. But you that's like a standard like challenge to the flat earthers that you guys have like a pat answer to, right?
Wait, are we still live?
Yeah, we're still on air. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to talk about my tattoos on the air. Okay, my bad. Well, I mean, I'm fine, but I thought we had already ended it. Okay, so what was the?
Oh yeah, everyone watching got to see your tattoo. Don't worry. Okay, but no, I was saying, depending on where you are and what time it is, have a great rest of your night or day. And then I thought you said something about. I thought you were saying something like making a flat Earth reference or joke. I didn't hear what you said.
No, I don't remember what I said because I thought we were already off the air and that we were about to sign off.
Oh no! Oh, we're almost there. But yeah, so thanks so much, folks. We will hopefully see you tomorrow night, as we will have Trump versus Biden as the topic for tonight or tomorrow night. That should be a fun one, and so we will hopefully see you there. Thanks so much, and keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable, folks. Take care and have a great rest of your night or day.